The gym, wherever you are, Newsroom is right there with you. Bringing you all the latest news, updates, sports, weather, and everything in between. Get all the latest news you need on the go via live streaming on our YouTube channel. That's Newsroom, weekdays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
It's Thursday, the 14th of April 2016. This is Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404. Right here, we're broadcasting live from our Johannesburg studios to the rest of the African continent. Now remember that you have to stay with us as we broadcast from here. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest, and we will be with you until 12 o'clock today. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Of course, today we're asking you, it's 2 years on, has the world forgotten about the Chibok girls of Nigeria? Send us your comments to @SABC Newsroom and on our Facebook page. First, let's take a look at your headlines.
The state finds out today if the appeal to court decision to allow Janusz Wolusz to be paroled has been granted. Political parties pledge to ensure peaceful local government elections later this year. And 2 years on, since the notorious abduction of Nigeria's Chibok girls, their families are still waiting for their return home. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning to you, Kendall.
Elvis, a good morning to you as well as a good morning to Renee and everybody at home as well. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
They're looking for is just gain position.
Sundowns turn on the style and extend their lead at the top of the table with a 3-1 win over Polokwane City. Antoine Griezmann's double inspires steely. Atletico Madrid has lost Colchoneros, dumped defending champions Barcelona out of the UEFA Champions League.
Goal Atletico! Antoine Griezmann nets again.
And Sirejiri Vesely of Czech Republic knocks world #1 and defending champion Novak Djokovic out of the Monte Carlo Masters. That is what we've got for you in the sports in about 10:20 or so. Back to the main desk for the news.
Thank you, Kendall. That's all coming up a little bit later, but right now, your news headlines, or in fact, your news with Renee.
Thank you very much, Elvis. The state will find out today if its application for leave to appeal a court decision to allow Janusz Wolusz to be paroled has been granted. This comes after the High Court in Pretoria reserved judgment in the matter of slain leader of the South African Communist Party, Chris Hani's convicted murderer on Tuesday. Earlier this year, Justice Minister Michael Masuta set aside the Medical Parole Board's decision to have Wolusz freed. The minister called for further dialogue with the SACP and Hani's family. Hani's wife, Dimple Hani, previously objected to Wolusz being freed on parole, saying he should tell the truth. Hani was the leader of the SACP and chief of staff of Umkhonto Wesizwe, the armed wing of the ANC. Hani was assassinated on April the 10th, 1993. Political parties have pledged to play their part to ensure that the local government elections are peaceful. The SA Local Government Association and the Moral Regeneration Movement signed an elections charter in Johannesburg yesterday. The elections charter is a document detailing the values and ethics parties are expected to abide by as they campaign ahead of the August polls.
That They may hold opposing and often confrontational political views, but for one day, South Africa's political players have come together under one roof to sign the Charter of Election Ethics, which will govern their campaigning ahead of the local government elections. Political party leaders say signing up for the Electoral Charter of Ethics was only the first step. They have also vowed to carry the message embodied within the Charter to their rank and file.
It's an important step in maturing our democracy that we've signed this pledge. Every so often, parties have to go back to the electorate to get a mandate, and some parties win and some parties lose, but it's the spirit in which we hold these elections and participate in the elections that's critical.
It is such events that ensures that our people remain focused upon what is best for South Africa, and that is that we shouldn't take elections, free and fair elections, for granted. Each and every one of us as citizens and as political parties have a role to play.
We welcome the opportunity to be amongst the community of political parties in the signing ceremony of the Charter. As the Professor Zulu has said, there is a culture of impunity amongst political parties in their conduct of elections campaign, primarily because there are absolutely no consequences for such conduct.
I express our support for the Charter of Election Ethics and commit the IFP to uphold the principles therein. Since our first democratic elections, the IFP has raised concerns over the very challenges this Charter actually addresses.
We make primary call on our own leaders and members of the Congress of the People, not just to admire the pictures on the television. They must study the contents of these documents.
The Charter also demands political parties promote respect for the rule of law. Tumalo Mohlaudi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
That's your top news for now, but it's back to Elvis.
Well, thank you, Renee. Now, prayers and marches are expected to be held across Nigeria on the second anniversary of Boko Haram's abduction of more than 200 schoolgirls from Chibok in Borno State in Nigeria. The marches started yesterday with members of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign protesting group walking through the streets of Abuja, tying ribbons in strategic locations in memory of over 200 schoolgirls that was abducted from the remote town in the northeast of the country exactly 2 years ago.
2 years ago, in a high-profile attack that sparked a global outcry, Boko Haram militants raided the school in April 2014 while the girls were taking exams. They loaded 270 of them onto trucks, though around 50 escaped shortly afterwards. And 2 years on, 219 of the girls abducted that night remain missing, despite a global campaign, #BringBackOurGirls, involving celebrities and U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama calling for them to be found. There have been protests to remember them. Bring back our girls, now and alive. Nigeria's government and military faced heavy criticism for their handling of the incident. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, who declined to comment on the kidnappings for almost 3 weeks, was criticized and became the first sitting Nigerian president to lose an election in 2015. His successor, President Muhammadu Buhari, ordered a new investigation into the abductions in January 2016.
I feel really sad and really kind of disappointed in our government for not being able to bring back the Chibok girls sooner than now, because I feel that if I was one of the Chibok girls, I would still be in captivity up till now.
Esther Yakubu's daughter is one of the missing Chibok girls. The distressed parent, who has 4 other children, says she has wished for death many times.
For me, if not because of God, I don't know that up till now I'm still alive. Because when this incident happened, honestly, I just feel like if I'm not on the surface of this earth, it's better for me than to be alive, to see and to witness such.
Hope for the girls was briefly raised in April 2015 when the Nigerian military announced it had rescued 200 girls and 93 women from the Sambisa forest. It was later revealed that Chibok girls were not among them.
I don't know why other children will be found and not our girls. Why not one? We know we'll not get all of them, but we want to see even one, so that she will tell us the story of what's happened to the others. So if this Boko Haram are defeated without our girls, I don't think Boko Haram is defeated.
About 2,000 girls and boys have been kidnapped by Boko Haram since the beginning of 2014, according to Amnesty International, which says they are used as cooks, sex slaves, fighters, and even suicide bombers.
Now, remember that we are asking you that question, a very important question in relation to the Chibok girls, and it's now 2 years on, and we're asking you the question, has the world really forgotten about the Chibok girls in Nigeria? I'd like to get your thoughts on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. Now, more than a week after 276 schoolgirls were kidnapped from the remote Nigerian town of Chibok by Boko Haram on this day, a lawyer posted the first #BringBackOurGirls tweet. Ibrahim Abdullahi's campaign would go on to become one of Africa's most popular online campaigns and was shared more than 4 million times. The campaign undoubtedly brought global attention to a brutal but largely ignored conflict that since 2009 has claimed lives and made more than 2.6 million people homeless. Now, for more on this and how helpful the campaign has been since it started, we joined on Skype by one of the spokespersons of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign from Nigeria, Rotimi Olawale. A very good morning to you, Rotimi, and welcome.
Good morning.
Now, when this campaign started, the #BringBackOurGirls, it galvanized international support worldwide. Are you still getting the very same support?
Well, I must say that this has been a 2-year strong campaign. When we started in the beginning, we never hoped or thought it would last this long. The Bring Back Our Girls hashtag as the online campaign is reduced, but I must say that we still have very much support from our international audience and from partners across the globe, and including in Nigeria. The Bring Back Our Girls continues to meet daily in Abuja at the Unity Fountain and also in Lagos on weekends on a daily basis.
Now, translating social media success into tangible success on the ground has always been a challenge to online campaigns. Would you say, though, that the #BringBackOurGirls is still relevant today on social media?
I think it still remains relevant. Despite the fact that it's been 2 years, we still continue to see daily activity both online and offline. And just yesterday, we watched on a news channel that there's been a new video that has been released that showed evidence that the girls are still alive. And this also brings back hope to the parents and all stakeholders that these girls can be rescued sooner.
Now, today is the anniversary. It marks a very special day since the girls went missing. Are you planning any mass protests throughout the day or other plans that you have for today?
Well, over the last 6 days, we've been doing a series of events, and today we'll be doing our final event, which would involve a march to the presidency, which is the State House in Nigeria in Abuja here. And so very soon, in a couple of minutes, we'll be starting that march and marching to the presidency to put pressure on the Nigerian government to continue to work assiduously to ensure that the girls are rescued soon, rather than later.
Now, since that it's 2 years since the girls has been kidnapped, is there a sense, though, from ordinary Nigerians that the government is doing enough to bring back the girls?
I think we must give kudos to the government because in the last couple of months, there's been several other people that have been rescued who have been abducted by Boko Haram. Over 1,000 girls and children have been rescued by government, but we will continue to also put pressure on government to intensify all efforts to ensure that all of the persons that have been abducted by Boko Haram are released and that the Chibok girls are also rescued and released as soon as possible.
Let's talk about the parents of these missing children. Have they accepted by now, or do they still refuse to believe that their children are likely to be missing for a very long time and will not be found? I beg your pardon.
A lot of the parents are traumatized and they live daily in pain and sorrow. And they continue to have hope that the girls will be found. They continue to have hope that the girls will be rescued. and a lot of them have not been able to move beyond that, and they continue to hope and pray the government will rescue their girls sooner than later.
I thank you so much, and good luck with the campaign there today and the march, of course, from Nigeria. That's Rotimi Olawala. He is a spokesperson of the #BringBackOurGirls campaign. Now, we continue that discussion today, and of course, we're also asking you the question. But Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, he claimed recently that Boko Haram have been driven into fallback positions and are currently not holding any territory in Nigeria. Now, Boko Haram's deadly 6-year insurgency in Nigeria's northeast is estimated to have cost the lives of between 13,000 and 17,000 people. Now, to talk to us more about Boko Haram in Nigeria, now joined in studio by political analyst Mr. Richard Aruanya. Very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
First and foremostly, the Chibok girls have now been missing for almost 2 years. Do you think that the Nigerian government will ever rescue them?
Yeah, well, we continue to hope that the Chibok girls will be found, and because if they are not found, then the argument of the previous government under Goodluck Jonathan that Chibok girls were a hoax, we tend to find a root, and we believe that there are parents of those girls who are still agonizing over their missing, and who want the loved ones found. So the Nigerian government needs to do more, increase the intelligence capacity. It does appear to me that they have been following one particular approach, towards finding the girls, which does not seem to be working, and there should be a change of strategies.
Yeah. Now, you heard there from the spokesperson of Bring Back the Girls is that they need to give some kudos to government because they found some of the girls. But the question that remains is that the girls are still missing, and other governments or other countries around the neighbors of Nigeria doesn't seem to really assist the government. Is that a correct assumption?
Well, I think the government of Nigeria are doing their best, let me admit that, but they've not gone beyond what the previous government also did, because at this point that they are in the campaign, making sure that Boko Haram does not hold any territory was actually the position, the exact place that the previous government was, the Jonathan government was, by the time it lost the election and left government. And so they've not gone beyond that, and the Chibugias, which is the main campaign issue during the election, when the current president promised that the girls will be found. And of course, he gave the military ultimatum, which expired last December, to end the military campaign against Boko Haram. And we are still on that. So I wouldn't say that they have done more than what the last administration did, and they need to do more, in my view. And coming to your answer concerning the neighboring countries, and the argument could be that the girls have not been found because they are not kept at a particular place. They've been married or scattered throughout the region, and so it becomes very difficult to trace them. The intelligence capacity of the government, therefore, needs to be increased.
Now, soon after winning the elections, Buhari did promise a very ambitious December deadline to achieve victory over Boko Haram. Do you think that that is a reality, that he is winning that fight?
Well, for the fact that Boko Haram is still very much active, bombing here and there, carrying out, suicide attack means that the December deadline has not been achieved. Anyway, success has been achieved in certain areas. Anyway, we've been able to drive them, they've been driven out of Nigerian borders, maybe to other areas, but they have infiltrated through Fulani herdsmen, they have infiltrated through other, terrorist organizations that has no name that we have found. And but the fact that they can no longer organize as a unit, as a force, and fight a conventional war means that at least a little success has been achieved.
Buhari also claimed that the militants no longer hold any territory in Nigeria. Is that a correct?
Well, they don't have any territory in the conventional sense of mounting a flag and saying this is where we rule.
Yes.
And they don't have that. But if he asks me, I would say that they are still very much active, and they have entered in the most worrisome aspects of the campaign, which is suicide bombing and attacking villages, vulnerable villages, in north central part of the country and other areas of the country. So they have actually infiltrated the society, and the Nigerian military is fighting an invisible army that you cannot see. Unlike before, when you can say, okay, this is where they are, we can attack them. Now you don't know where they are, and they suddenly appear from nowhere, attack, and disappear. So it's a very difficult situation that we are in now.
We've also recently heard that there is now negotiations between the Nigerian government and Boko Haram regarding the girls. Is that a good development, or perhaps is this ransom that they are claiming that would even spur them on further to attack Nigeria more?
Well, the fact that the lives of the girl can force the government to negotiate, their role is, but no responsible government actually wants to negotiate with a terrorist organization. And if there is any negotiation going on between the Nigerian government and the Boko Haram insurgents, it might be going on underground or at the background that nobody can see. But if that will help bring back the ground, why not? Someone like me will, of course, support such an idea.
Now, Borno State is the worst affected, with as much as 70% of its territory annexed to Boko Haram. Why is that the case? Is it because that is their stronghold?
Oh, yes, and if you recall, going back to Nigerian history, and that territory had been a very volatile territory, and Islam came into Nigeria through that very region. And the very fact that it does not provide the hardship of the Islamic religion in Nigeria, which has moved to the northwest, and to Sokoto and so on, it has been causing a lot of problems. So we have having a lot of insurgents. In the 1980s, we also had this Matasini group that also came up, and a lot of other smaller groups that were crushed and had come out from that group. And this Boko Haram is just a rebirth, of some of these previous terrorist organizations that had operated in that region. And for the fact that the Nigerian government had never at any time decisively dealt with the situation, bring people to book, we've had this question of people getting away with crimes committed in Nigeria, even violence. We've had so many times that some people will instead ethnic tensions kill people, and they're never brought to book. So we are now coming out to reap some of the consequences of not taking decisive actions against criminal acts.
Richard, what about the African Union? Is there perhaps enough support from the African Union and even from the world, for that matter? Because that's the question we're asking. Has the Chibok girls been forgotten?
Well, the Chibok girls have not been forgotten, but when something happens, you have to tackle it head on. I think the most important thing is that when this thing happened, that the opposition, which is in government today, were politicizing the situation, and that was that the government said no, they are using these Chibok girls just because they want to make a political point, score a cheap political point. And no one knew for sure at the beginning whether there was actually girls being kidnapped or not. After a certain time, it began to dawn on people that probably there were girls missing. And so the approach of the Nigerian government at the beginning was very poor to the situation. Now you're calling the world to help you, but you must also show leadership in that direction. I think they failed to show leadership in the first instance. Now the AU came into the scene, but the AU not very much equipped, to tackle the problems. Now, in terms of providing material support, it took the Americans to offer intelligence, surveillance. Which help to claim that the girls have been tracked to certain areas in the forest. But so the African Union, in my view, have not actually done enough apart from semantics, been providing diplomatic support, saying we condemn this, we condemn that. But providing the concrete actions that will eventually lead to the rescue of those girls, I don't think they've done enough in that direction.
Mr. Ayore, thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio. Now that was Richard Arianye. How do you pronounce that?
Iruanya.
Oh, Arianye. He is a political analyst giving us the latest from Nigeria. Now, there's a couple of comments because we're asking you, of course, that question. What do you think? Has the Chibok girls been forgotten by the world? Now, Boko Haram has sent a proof of life video. That video shows some of the girls that were abducted by extremist group from the northeast Nigerian town of Chibok 2 years ago. Now let's take a look at some of your comments. Remember that you can send us your comments to @SABC Newsroom, as well as like us on the Facebook page, and we will take a look at it there. Here's that video. Comments. President Buhari says he's doing all he can to rescue the Chibok girls. Please be patient. Everything will be fine, says Yakubu. This one from Yoma says, Chibok girls in life, many are suffering irreparable damage because of actions they didn't take immediately. If only we didn't wait 19 days, says Yoma. This one from Douglas Herbert says, commemorations planned across Nigeria 2 years after mass kidnapping and a day after proof of life video showing 15 Chibok girls. And this one from Yomar again, 2 years has gone by since the Chibok girls were taken. 2 years. That's a big life lesson. What if we had acted immediately to bring them back? Probably would have made a big difference, wouldn't it? Paul Ananya says, I actually feel a pain in my chest when I think about the Chibok girls. Dear Lord, please help us. Hashtag bring back our girls. There from that one. Oladebo says, I believe that the Chibok girls are alive. But are they in Nigeria? That's the question that Ola Bedov asked us. If yes, then in which government official house are they? Well, probably not in a government official house. Those are some of your comments. You can keep them coming on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. You can also like us on the Facebook and we'll read them from there. Now, today's picture of the day is sponsored by Roy Africa. And it shows Nigerians holding candles during a vigil for last year's 1-year anniversary of the kidnapping of hundreds of Nigerian schoolgirls in Chibok. Look at that picture, beautiful picture there, taken just at night, and look at the candles that they all burn there in memory of the girls. Let's now take a look what's happening on the ground here in our courts today in South Africa. And we start off in Pretoria, where the North Gauteng High Court is expected to hand down judgment on the Justice and Correctional Services Minister's application to appeal the earlier court judgment to release Chris Hani's killer, Janus Wallus, on parole. We'll bring you the latest on that court case, and we'll probably cross there live a little bit later as soon as it starts, so you have to stay tuned. Do not go away. Let's now take a look at the first the question of the day. The day we're asking you, 2 years on, has the world forgotten the Chibok girls? Let us know what's on your mind. Let's now take a quick look at the front pages of the newspapers from around the globe, and we're starting off in New York. The Wall Street Journal reports that migrants and the Macedonian police clashed yesterday for the second time in recent days at the country's border with Greece, highlighting the growing frustration of migrants and refugees trapped in Greece by border closures. Moving to the United States now, the USA Today says that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention announced yesterday that it now considers Zika to be the definite cause of the birth defect seen in Brazil and other countries affected by the outbreak. And finally, in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that security forces have quietly foiled a large number of Hamas mass casualty terrorism places forming in the West Bank recently, often at a very advanced stage of preparations, a senior Israel Defense Force source disclosed yesterday. Those are your newspapers. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back after that.
How does this extreme heat affect basic conditions of living?
Food spoils more readily, and the risk of food poisoning outbreaks or food poisoning in a household.
Should we experience another heat wave soon, and it's coming?
First sign is always thirst. Thirst is a sign that already your body started to be dehydrated, and that's a very early sign that most people will be able to sort of pay attention to and then act on. That doesn't warrant any serious medical attention. But the minute that you start to feel slightly nauseous, that you start to feel dizzy, that's a sign that you need to stop what you're doing, get out of the sun, get into a cool area, slow down your intensity, get hydrated, cool down.
Join Dr. Silla Mutawung every Saturday from 9 till 10 in the morning.
Staying with the second anniversary of Boko Haram's abduction of more than 200 schoolgirls, we are now across to our West African correspondent, Sophia Odengo, to find out about the latest the situation on the ground in Nigeria. Very good morning to Sophia. Firstly, how's the mood like in Nigeria? That's 2 years after the abduction of the girls.
Well, Elvis, you must imagine 24 months after the abduction of 276 girls from a boarding school in northern Nigeria in Chibok, a local government community in which girls do not typically or are not allowed to go to school in a social setting. These, 276 girls really coming out of the general cultural understanding, and as a result being taken by the Islamist group Boko Haram. The mood here in Nigeria is really reflective, looking back at how the government could have perhaps helped, how the girls are faring under their captivity, how negotiations are being, revived under the Buhari administration, and how the parents are holding up under a considerable time lag in which the girls have gone missing. These are the continuous questions that we have been encountering, speaking to people on the streets here in Nigeria, and also getting a sense from civil society that they are continuously drumming the support in bringing back the girls. We were part of a week-long.
Well, it seems like we've lost our correspondent there from Nigeria live to give us the latest update in Nigeria. But as you heard there from her, situation is fairly calm, but people are still upset about the girls not being back home. Now, new reports claim that Boko Haram is demanding 840 million rand ransom for the return of the schoolgirls. But the question is, how can the government ensure that the girls are still alive? And we also believe that there was a video that was sent through to them to give the latest through to the government in terms of the kidnapped girls. But to unpack this, we are now joined in studio by, in fact, we're not going to have that interview. We're going to go to the next one, which is more relation to the trauma that the girls are going through and how they feel at this point in time. And we are joined in studio by Leanne Lurie. A very good morning to Leanne.
Thank you for having me.
Now, first and foremost, it's 2 years later. How do you think at this point in time, let's start with the parents and the affected people first. How do you think the parents must be feeling right now of these children?
I think that we read that 18, or at least 18 parents have passed away due to trauma-related illnesses, heart attacks, hypertension, and extreme anxiety. And I think that for the remaining parents, they must be experiencing similar sensations. I think extreme depression, I think, and hopelessness, not knowing from one day to the next, firstly, whether their daughters are alive, and also not knowing whether they will ever be returned. I think that their lives as parents, I think their lives as a community have been irrevocably changed. I think that the parents must also be feeling exceptionally angry because, the overall sense is that the government hasn't done enough to bring their girls home. And so they've lost their faith in an institution that was meant to protect them and their most vulnerable, their children.
Now let's go to the girls. It's been 2 years. Take us through the trauma that a person goes through, first and foremostly when they have been abducted, taken away from their comfort zones.
I think that's a very important point. I think that trauma is one thing. Trauma at the hands of another human being is something completely different. And I think that initially the person may feel this complete sense of shock and disbelief, questions around why is this actually happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? I think they must have been paralyzed by extreme fear, anxiety, sleeplessness, and I think a huge sense of hopelessness and depression. They've been taken somewhere that they don't know, somewhere that's unfamiliar, and been subjected to extreme forms of violence, obviously against their will.
How possible is it for the victims to get over the trauma at the time when they've been abducted and where they are now?
I think that it's very hard for them to move past the trauma when they are in the actual trauma. I think because they don't know from day to day what's actually happening. I think also because they are witnessing their fellow classmates, girls that they've grown up with, also being subjected to unbelievable horrors, which I think then just re-traumatizes them. And I think that in terms of the girls that actually managed to escape, they were re-traumatized when they re-entered their communities. Many of them faced the stigma of being labeled as Boko Haram wives. You know, many of them came home to find that their parents, the stability that they knew, had been taken away from them. And so the trauma was amplified. They were re-traumatized.
Can they ever return back to normal? If they're not treated, though?
If they're not treated, I think it's very likely that they will suffer from, you know, the indescribable effects of trauma, I think, for many, many years to come. I think that the girls need ongoing psychotherapy. I think the communities in which they live, I think their parents, their grandparents, they need trauma counselling as well. I think they need to be in a nurturing and very holding and containing environment. I think that also because, for example, the school that the girls were part of hasn't been rebuilt, and the parents and the communities feel that efforts haven't been made to help them or support them, the trauma is ongoing.
So, as you mentioned earlier, even if the girls do escape or even if they're being rescued, they will still be faced with trauma even back in their communities because they're being stigmatized.
Yes.
How do they get over it? And is there a way to deal with it from a community perspective and even from a parent's perspective?
Look, I think that systemic interventions are always very, very important. You know, I think that the community as a whole needs to have both trauma debriefing, I think needs to have education about what these girls have been through. I think there needs to be education around being sensitive to their experiences. I think that obviously, I think as a whole, the community lives in fear of further attacks, of further children being abducted. And obviously, you know, of the offspring of these girls, if they've come back and they're pregnant, that they might then become Boko Haram insurgents. And I think as a whole then, the girls are viewed with absolute suspicion. And so many of the girls chose to leave their communities and I think to go and actually live with relatives where they wouldn't face the stigma, where the environment would be more nurturing and more containing.
Now, we've heard some of the girls being used as wives as well as to go out and bomb up some places. Is it relevant at this point in time to ask if they can be brainwashed while in captivity and even when they're back in their own communities?
You know, there is a phenomenon known as Stockholm Syndrome, where individuals who've been under captivity for a long time almost start to identify with and feel sympathy for the individual that has abducted them and captured them. And it almost becomes a survival technique in order to integrate into that community so that you don't face further kind of punishment or repercussions. And so the brainwashing is something that's very, very possible. And I think that when they return to their community, they may experience a huge amount of conflict in terms of who am I now? What is my identity? Am I the same person I was before? Are people able to actually relate to me?
How long does it take for a person to heal after such a traumatic experience? How long is a piece of string, right?
Yeah. That's exactly it. And I think that, you know, very often it depends on whether the person experienced a previous level of, you know, trauma, and we know that that community has lived under threat for a long time. It also depends on the individual's baseline level of functioning. How were they before? And it depends on the amount of support that they actually have incoming home and what measures are actually put in place for that individual.
Lion, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
It was Lion Lurie, psychologist, clinical psychologist here from SADC, by the way. Forgot about to mention that earlier. And by the way, if you want to get in touch with SADC, there's a number to call, right?
Yes.
What is that number again? Can you just remind us? Is the toll-free number the 0800 600? Well,
yeah.
we'll try and get it a little bit later.
Okay.
We'll put it up for you. So that's Lion Lurie from SADC joining us here in studio. Now remember that we're asking you that question, a very important one, and of course that relates to the Chibok girls. Do you think that the world has forgotten the Chibok girls in Nigeria? It's 2 years on. That is the question we posed to you this morning. We'd like to get it on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter page. But yesterday, we asked you a question. Have our nation's sport teams lost their winning touch or their mojo? That's the question we posed to you, and this is what you had to say. Let's take a look at some of those comments. This one here from Ketu says, yes, our national teams have failed to produce results. Transformation is still a hot issue. It's been a losing streak, says Ketu. This one coming from CR7, the greatest, says, if politicians and government is failing us, Can we at least be proud of our national teams just to find something to smile about? This one from Lesego says, only by binding together as a single force will we remain strong and unconquerable. That one from Lesego there. This one from Skumbuzo says, SABC Newsline, yes indeed, our national sport teams has lost their winning touch and the lack of development has contributed to it. Well, that's another issue, development, isn't it? It's a sore issue that we need to work with here in this country. Polani says, our soccer teams lose games because we like to undermine our opponents. And when it gets tough, then, we don't have a plan B. How often has that not happened? Well, there you have it. You know, these are some of the comments that we had yesterday from you. A very important question that was yesterday, because we looked at a new coach that was appointed, the Springbok coach. We looked at what is the possibility of the Springboks getting back to winning ways. Also, transformation. And it's another topic that we'll touch on in time to come, so you have to stay tuned here on this channel every day between 9 and 12. This is Newsroom. Now let's take a look at our Facebook page and see what you have to say on our Facebook page. For more updates, you can follow us on that Facebook page as well, if you like us there. Let's take a look at this one. Says SABC News Eastern Cape remembers Clarence Makwetu. That's Thursday the 14th of April 2016. Rest in peace, Mr. Makwetu. That one there. What else is on the Facebook page? Let's see if we can see that. This one, SABC News next. The UN chief must be a good negotiator. South Africa, Thursday on the 14th of April. That one. So remember, there's the interviews for all for the new chief to come on board, and they face a grill there from the United Nations. This one says the Mai Kang community seeks help to tackle the drug problem. That's you see there some of the drugs are being exposed there, and these are some of the comments on the Facebook page that you can find on our Facebook page when you go there. And if you like us there, by the way, you become part and parcel of the Informed here on Newsroom. Those are all the comments. You can also do so on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. But more to remember today, we're talking about the Chibok girls. I'd like to find it from you. What do you think about that? Do you think that the world, Africa, Nigeria, has forgotten about the Chibok girls? Let me know what's on your mind. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
Why are we paying for people's faults? And some years down the line, it catches up with you, then you didn't listen.
Well, it's a question of, to be fair.
They greet you in English, but the entire lecture is in Afrikaans. Are you saying, therefore, General, that the Hawks did not leak the letter?
I must just say so. Hawks did not leak this document.
Okay, but Gwedemantashe doesn't think so.
That one, you are drawing me now to the politics. Myself, I'm dealing with investigation. Okay. That one, politician will answer.
Watch Question Time with me, Mpho Tsedu, Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on the SABC News channel.
Now, we're staying with the Chibok girls and, of course, the story in Nigeria. Today, we focus on that. That's our theme story of the world forgotten, the Chibok girls. That's the question that we pose to you. Let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter handle as well as on the Facebook page. But there are new reports that claim that Boko Haram is demanding 840 million rand ransom for the return of the schoolgirls in Chibok. But how can the government ensure that the girls are still alive? Now, to unpack this, we are joined in studio by the chairperson of all Nigerian nationals in the diaspora South African chapter, Lloyd Johnson. Mr. Johnson, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Now, the present, as well as the past government, has said it is ready to get the girls back through negotiations. Are these negotiations happening as far as you are aware?
Yeah, if there are negotiations happening, definitely it will be behind the curtain. So negotiations are not done in the open. Because, but Nigerian government have been applying the stick and carrot approach. So it's not going to be merely negotiations alone. There's effort to get the girls by all means. But this present government are looking at the Boko Haram issue holistically, not concentrating on the Chibok girls alone. If I may remind you, it is a war of terror.
Yes.
And it is not only about the girls. That's why it seems that the world is forgetting about the girls. But the girls, it was a groundbreaking incident that actually attracted the whole world's attention. At the initial, the world has been silent on the sufferings of Nigerians over Boko Haram terrorist activities. It was only this Chibok issue that highlighted globally the incident, the depth of the dangers that have been happening in Nigeria.
Now, earlier we spoke to a spokesperson from the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls campaign in Nigeria, and he said that they need to give kudos to government because they're doing quite a lot. Are you of the same view, and do you share that sentiment that government is doing enough?
I don't share that same view, in the sense that even if they are doing enough, we don't know. It must have been secret deals that have been cutting. But what we want is the girls. We want the girls. But it does not stop at the girls. It stops at stopping the terrorists in Nigeria, fighting Boko Haram holistically. That's our own contention about this. But getting the girls will be a very big trump. But which, security-wise, we are very skeptical if it is actually.
Now, as the organization in diaspora for Nigerian nationals in diaspora, the SA chapter, what are you doing as an organization to bring back the girls or to campaign for the girls to come back?
We're happy to say that we are the first diaspora Nigerian organization that actually did massive enlightenment campaign on this issue. We reached out all arms of social society, civil society in South Africa. We staged one of the biggest demonstrations in South Africa here. We did a candle night prayer vigil. We did, which South Africans participated. We reached out to the Women League of the ANC and other political parties. We reached out to the youth organizations, even the youth development agencies. South Africa, they joined us. We were able to spur up the interest of the global world in this issue. And down, we took this issue down to Nigeria. There are some Cape Town organizations from Cape Town, civil organizations from Cape Town that joined us. We went to Nigeria, did some campaign. We didn't join the BBOK, the BBOK group. We had our independent diaspora campaign for the release of these girls. The American branch of American chapter of all Nigerian nationals did marvelously well in New York, trying to spur international interest.
Besides the Chibok girls, very briefly, is there any other campaigns that you are busy with? Because we do understand that the agitation of the indigenous people of Biafra and other pockets of political violence that have led to destruction of citizens' lives in the country. Are you busy with that as well?
No, we're not busy with the Biafran issue. We're a holistic Nigerian outfit. Yeah, but there are other sectors of our concerns. We fought to put in the diaspora voting right into. We fought to fight for what do you call it? For commission, people, yes. National Commission, Diaspora Commission. Yeah. Fought for that. All these things have passed through the Parliament, as at now, waiting for the President to assent. And those are some of the things we have been able to do. And we're fighting for the integration of the diasporas back into. In fact, the actual motive of all Nigerian nationals in the diaspora is to plough back to our society, the Nigerian society, what we have gained from the brain drain. So we call it ploughing back the brain gain from the brain drain, because there was a brain drain
out of Nigeria.
So
you plow back now. So Johnson, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio. That was the chairperson of the All Nigerian Nationals in the Diaspora South African chapter, Lloyd Johnson. Now, you know it's happening today. We're going live for more on the Janusz Walusz story. We now cross to our reporter who is at the High Court in Pretoria, Tumola Mhlawuli. Tumola, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Very good morning to you too. Well, what's happening now is that we are just moments away from the second round of Janusz Walusz's application for a leave to appeal an earlier ruling which basically had set aside his parole. What Janusz Walusz is saying is that he basically is approaching the court in order to get an order to release him on parole on the argument that he has served the minimum time expected of a life sentence, which would then qualify him for an appeal to parole. However, of course, we do know that this has been met with a very, very rigid opposition from both government as well as an interested party being the SA Communist Party, saying that this man cannot be released on parole. From government side, certainly, the minister was saying that, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services saying that there are processes which Walusz had open to him if he felt that his time for parole had come in, including appearing in front of a parole board and stating his case, which he has then obviously superseded by approaching the courts. Now, I'm joined by Alex Mashilo from the SACP. Mr. Mashilo, you are here in court. What is your expectation today?
We expect the court to agree to the leave to appeal by the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. The SACP and the Krizane family joined that appeal. We are hoping that the court, if it is sure about the correctness of its decision, will not have a problem in granting us leave to appeal, because we believe that there are reasonable grounds for successfully appealing against the decision, and that another court can reach a different decision.
Right. Why do you think it's so critical at this time in our country, in our history, for this process not to be granted in terms of Walusz being released? Many, including his lawyers, saying that he has served his time.
He has not served his time, which is why he wants to be released on parole. He is a prisoner for life. He is serving life sentence. By the way, we are talking about an unrepentant and unremorseful murderer here who does not demonstrate any understanding of the enormity of the crime he committed. The murder of Krizane pushed our country to the brink of a civil war. Thanks to the leadership of the ANC and the SACP, they managed to convince our people that this was a trap set for us by Janusz Walusz, Leib de Lewis, and whoever they were working with. We didn't go to that civil war. Had we gone to that civil war, our country would have been ruined.
Right. And finally, Mr. Mashilo, very quickly, we see that there's a large contingent of SACP supporters singing outside court. What do ordinary people want, and what would they like to see that the courts do?
The ordinary people and members of the party want to know the truth. Surely Janusz Walusz and Leib de Lewis could not have planned and executed the murder alone. For example, the gun that they used to kill Krizane was obtained from military armory. Who took it from the military armory, and how many hands did it pass through before it was used to kill Krizane? Who else had prior knowledge of the assassination before it was committed? And what role did they play in the planning and execution, or their complacency in the assassination?
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mashilo. We'll leave it there. We'll talk to you afterwards. So that was Alex Mashilo of the SACP, and we are just now moments away from the court proceedings resuming here in Pretoria. And that was just Mr. Alex Mashilo of the SACP reflecting the mood amongst the ordinary members of the SACP, many of which are gathered right outside the court building singing and imploring the court not to grant Walusz's application. Of course, they reflect the mood of many South Africans who feel that this man should not be released under any circumstances, and of course that he is trying to misuse the criminal justice system to get exit out of incarceration and early exit, in their opinion, from a sentence for a crime that nearly pushed the country beyond the brink towards a civil war. With that, it's back to you in the studio.
Tamali, just before you go, just let us know what time exactly the court's supposed to start and how long do we think it's going to last?
Well, the court is supposed to start anytime shortly after 10. That's what we've been told by court officials. So in the next few minutes, we are expecting proceedings to get underway. And if the previous sitting of court, which was a few days ago, is anything to go by, proceedings will likely continue just until after lunchtime today. Very, very meticulous in how matters have been handled here by the judge and by the various legal representatives from all sides, from the state, from the SACP, as well as from Janusz Walusz's legal team. So we're expecting it to be wrapping up around about lunchtime if everything goes according to schedule. However, since this matter is set aside to be finished today and finalized today, if there is any matters that are outstanding, we do not rule out the fact that the judge can then continue during the day. This is what we've been told by court officials.
Tamali, thank you so much for that update, and you'll keep us posted as to the outcome of that ruling. But right now, it's time to take a look at your weather forecast with Tsitsi Manare.
Welcome from the weather desk. We're expecting clear conditions for most parts of southern Africa. Some partly cloudy skies are expected towards the northeastern side into Malawi, as well as over the northern parts of Mozambique. Otherwise, sunny skies are expected for South Africa, as well as over the southern part of Namibia. Temperatures, it's going to be quite a warm day towards that northwestern interior. 32 is expected towards Walvis Bay. In fact, at a maximum of 34 this afternoon. Windhoek is at 30, and we've seen those 30s going towards Gaborone as well as over Pretoria. Along the southern parts, 23 for Cape Town and Port Elizabeth, sitting at a maximum of 27 degrees. A warm day is also expected towards Pietermaritzburg and the rest of KwaZulu-Natal. Now over the tropics, a place where we're expecting lots of rainfall is that of the DRC, and going all the way towards the coastal parts into the southern regions of Cameroon, as well as over the Congo, including much of the northern parts of Angola. And still clear conditions for the southern part of the DRC, as well as over the northern part of Zambia. And temperatures in Zambia for Lusaka do expect temperatures to be into about 32 degrees, Longest at 26, and rainy weather with temperatures increasing to 31 for Dar es Salaam, Mombasa 32. You can see widespread showers from Addis Ababa through Kampala, Kigali, as well as all the way towards Kinshasa. Brazzaville and Kinshasa are expected to reach maximum of 35 degrees, so those upper 30s are expected right across the tropics, going all the way towards Bangui in Central African Republic. And just crossing over into Sudan and Port Sudan, do expect temperatures to be quite hot along those parts. Damascus should be a bit rainy, but slightly cooler weather is expected in between the central parts of Syria. Baghdad, 16, even cooler along those regions. A bit of sunny conditions return towards Cairo, Benghazi, as well as over Tripoli. Tripoli will drop to 23 degrees, but not far from there. Temperatures will go up by 10 degrees for Seba to about 33. Those partly cloudy skies continue just along the northern coastal parts of West Africa and even along the southern regions. In fact, over the southern parts, that's where you should expect a greater chance of rainfall. Niamey, very hot as usual, now reaching a maximum of 47. Jamena, sunny skies with a maximum of 33. A bit of change towards Abidjan. Partly cloudy skies are expected along those regions with a bit of rain later on. That's where I leave it for the weather. Do stay tuned. There'll be more later.
Thursday, the 14th of April 2016, it is 10:00 hours Central Africa time. This is Newsroom on Channel 404, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios here in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Presley.
And I'm Renee Best, and we'll be with you until 12 o'clock today. We are also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Of course, we're asking you, it's 2 years on, has the world forgotten about the missing Chibok girls of Nigeria? Send us your comments at SABC Newsroom, that's our Twitter handle, and of course on Facebook. But first, let's take a look at your headlines.
The state finds out today if the appeal to court on the decision to allow Janus Walush to be paroled has been granted. Political parties pledge to ensure peaceful local government elections later this year. And it's 2 years since the notorious abduction of Nigeria's Chibok girls. Their families are still waiting for their return home. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makhamate what's happening on the sports front. A very good morning to you, Kendall.
Elvis, good morning. Good morning to you, Renee, as well as everybody at home. This is what we've got for you in the sports today.
Looking for
Mamelodi Sundowns turn on the start and extend the lead at the top of the table with a 3-1 win over Polokwane City.
Lights up, he establishes the two-goal cushion.
Antoine Griezmann's double inspires still Atletico Madrid as Los Colchoneros dump defending champions Barcelona out of the UEFA Champions League.
Great cross, goal Atletico. Antoine Griezmann nets again.
Unseeded Yuri Vesely of Czech Republic knocks world number 1 and defending champion Novak Djokovic out of the Monte Carlo Masters. That is what we've got for you in the sports at about 10:20. Be sure to stick around for that. Back to the main desk for the news.
Well, thank you, Kendall. You will be back a little bit later, so you have to stay tuned. But first, let's start off with our top story this hour with Renee.
Thank you very much, Elvis. The state will find out today if its application for leave to appeal a court decision to allow Janus Walush to be paroled has been granted. This comes after the High Court in Pretoria reserved judgment in the matter of slain leader of the South African Communist Party, Chris Hani's convicted murderer on Tuesday. Earlier this year, Justice Minister Michael Masuta set aside the Medical Parole Board's decision to have Walush freed. The minister called for further dialogue with the SACP and Hani's family. Hani's wife, Dimple Hani, previously objected to Walush being freed on parole, saying he should tell the truth. Hani was the leader of the SACP and chief of staff of Umkhonto Wesizwe, the armed wing of the ANC. Hani was assassinated on April the 10th, 1993. Political parties have pledged to play their part to ensure that the local government elections are peaceful. The South African Local Government Association and the Moral Regeneration Movement signed an elections charter in Johannesburg yesterday. The elections charter is a document detailing the values and ethics parties are expected to abide by as they campaign ahead of the August polls.
They may hold opposing and often confrontational political views, but for one day, South Africa's political players have come together under one roof to sign the Charter of Election Ethics, which will govern their campaigning ahead of the local government elections. Political party leaders say signing up for the Electoral Charter of Ethics was only the first step. They have also vowed to carry the message embodied within the Charter to their rank and file.
It's an important step in maturing our democracy that we've signed this pledge. Every so often, parties have to go back to the electorate to get a mandate, and some parties win and some parties lose, but it's the spirit in which we hold these elections and participate in the elections that's critical.
It is such events that ensures that our people remain focused upon what is best for South Africa, and that is that we shouldn't take elections, free and fair elections, for granted. Each and every one of us as citizens and as political parties have a role to play.
We welcome the opportunity to be amongst the community of political parties in the signing ceremony of the Charter. As the Professor Zulu has said, there is a culture of impunity amongst political parties in their conduct of elections campaign, primarily because there are absolutely no consequences for such conduct.
I express our support for the Charter of Election Ethics and commit the IFP to uphold the principles therein. Since our first democratic elections, the IFP has raised concerns over the very challenges this Charter actually addresses.
We make primary call on our own leaders and members of the Congress of the People, not just to admire the pictures on the television. They must study the contents of these documents.
The Charter also demands political parties promote respect for the rule of law. Tumalo Mohlaudi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
We now cross live to the North Gauteng High Court for the decision of the Janusz Walusz appeal court case.
Yes, I'll postpone the application sine die then. Mr. Murani. Yes, you are at liberty to take the steps that you deem necessary after having studied, as counsel should do, the court's judgment. At this stage, I am no longer seized with the matter until there is a petition properly filed at the Supreme Court of Appeal. Yes. Would advise your client, obviously.
Yes, lady. But what I'm indicating is actually that we'll be ready to bring the application within a very short space.
So I take note of that, and as I've indicated, the moment that the application is properly filed, then the application will become relevant again. Thank you, Mr. Mulindi. But your clients were not part and parcel of the application. On what basis can they bring a leave to appeal?
They were not. We will advise them of their competency of getting onto.
Yes, I would. Yes, but you are still part of the application in terms of Rule 18. Yes. So then, as soon as the first respondent has considered his position and this petition, the application will become relevant again. Thank you. The court will adjourn.
Parliament will consider proposals from opposition parties following the Constitutional Court's judgment on Nkandla to restore its image. Speaker of the National Assembly, Baleka Mbete, says the National Assembly has taken criticism over the recent events seriously.
Parliament has flouted its obligations. The Constitutional Court was very clear in its judgment that the National Assembly should not have ignored the Public Protector's Nkandla report. It also ruled that the House had failed to hold the President accountable. The criticism is not taken lightly.
The area of the erosion of the image and credibility of Parliament, in particular the National Assembly, is one that is of concern to us. And as far as we are concerned also, there was an understanding and acceptance that it's something, of course, that has been facing us as the fifth parliament.
The ANC called the behind closed doors meeting constructive.
We agreed on the way forward, which is to make sure that
the implementation of the court judgment takes place. That is what we are going to make sure that it happens.
The official opposition says serious introspection is required.
It means that we've got to go to the heart of what our responsibilities and role is, and then how we can give expression to that in the National Assembly.
The EFF welcomed the Speaker's agreement to consider disciplinary action against President Jacob Zuma.
We will obviously await the outcomes, the processes, the response, the comprehensive response from the Speaker. If it is not satisfactory, we'll take it to the next level.
But the IFP warned that the task ahead is huge.
Another issue that we've raised, I think, as other political parties is, are there instances where the President or any of the ministers would have made statements in the National Assembly which would have had the effect of misleading Parliament? We need to do research in this regard.
The ACDP wants action on the resolutions declaring that the President is not liable for anything at Nkandla.
Deciding on whether reports are going to be rescinded or not is something that I believe we could have done. Because we should make a statement.
As far as the NFP is concerned, we feel that it's high time. This gives us an opportunity that we restore the dignity of Parliament.
We are happy with the outcome of the meeting today because it gave a direction as far as the dilemma that we are facing in Parliament is concerned.
We had taken a resolution as COPE that we are not going to participate in parliamentary processes altogether. But then, given the fact that all the political parties have come and we have agreed that we shall be moving together to deal with these particular problems.
No timelines were given, but all parties committed to a joint effort to restore Parliament's image. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
The ANC is expecting more than 100,000 people at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in Port Elizabeth this weekend. One of the party leaders, Nomvulo Mokonyane, says people have raised issues of service delivery as their main concern.
This year's polls are highly contested. The ruling party has chosen the Nelson Mandela Metro, and it promises to be the most exciting. And the ANC is pulling out all the stops.
Ordinary South Africans are saying, can you assure us of reliability of water? Can you assure us of a transparent allocation of houses? Can you deal with the issues of unemployment, of skilling young people? And our response is, come to the rally, and when the President presents the manifesto will actually be responding on the journey we have traveled, conceding on the challenges that we have gone through, and mapping the way forward for the coming 5 years.
It says its track record will tell the story and it will tackle challenges head on.
Our own interest is to make sure that we don't lose any ward in South Africa, but worse with our metros. Can we imagine the DA presiding over Nelson Mandela? It can't happen with our energy, some of us, honestly. And it can't also happen with a conscious electorate of Nelson Mandela.
The party is also warning its members and structures to utilize internal channels to raise issues. This follows public displays of divisions over the future of the president.
We will continue even here and now to discourage members of the ANC, regardless of their positions in society, that whenever views they have about the organization, it's not in the interest of the organization to see and hear members of the organization speaking out each other about the organization. It's hurting the organization. It damages the image of the organization. I think it's only best, whether it's veterans, whether it's PECs, who yesterday came out in numbers, it does not strengthen the ANC.
Meanwhile, ANC Treasurer General Dr. Zweli Mkhize went on the campaign trail to rural Pondoland. A scramble for ANC T-shirts turned chaotic and caused a security scare.
In this area, some roads are being constructed, but they are pointing out at other areas where there's lots of need to deal with the potholes, to deal with the gravel roads.
Mkhize interacted with people at a taxi rank who complained about service delivery. The party's heavyweights will be descending on the Eastern Cape to speed up mobilization campaigns. Mzwandile Mbeje, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Hundreds of mine workers at Shiva Uranium Mine near Klerksdorp in Northwest are uncertain about their future. 74% of the mine is owned by the Gupta's troubled Johannesburg Stock Exchange-listed company Oak Bay. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan says if arms manufacturer Denel pushes ahead with a joint venture with a company linked to the Gupta family without the necessary permission, they will be guilty of financial misconduct. Gordhan's warning is apparently an effort to reassert control over state-owned enterprises, some of which are reported to have flouted government and treasury rules to favour some companies in the awarding of contracts.
Reporting for duty. Many uncertain about their future due to reports that owners of this mine have left the country. Now they want answers from management.
We are very, very worried. We are demoralized. We don't know actually what is happening. They don't even address us, tell us nothing about the situation.
A concerned Nelly Bezaidenhout from Tihane Township here in Hartbeesfontein is the sole breadwinner.
I think we are going to suffer a lot because in this house I'm a breadwinner. I take care of 2 children.
The National Union of Mine Workers and its federation, COSATU, are demanding a meeting with the mine owners.
The workers have been a lot of concern in terms of they are uncertain in terms of their jobs. But we said that we must wait for that meeting of a CO and with our leadership nationally.
Oak Bay Resources and Energy have warned that the developments could lead to retrenchments, but have denied that the Gupta family has skipped the country. Tsholofelo Matibedi, SABC News, Hartbeesfontein near Klerksdorp.
Present marches are expected to be held across Nigeria on the 2nd anniversary of Boko Haram's abduction of more than 200 schoolgirls from Chibok in Borno State, Nigeria. The marches started yesterday with members of the Bring Back Our Girls protest group walking through the streets of the capital, Abuja, tying ribbons in specific locations in memory of the schoolgirls abducted.
2 years ago, in a high-profile attack that sparked a global outcry, Boko Haram militants raided the school in April 2014 while the girls were taking exams. They loaded 270 of them onto trucks, though around 50 escaped shortly afterwards. And 2 years on, 219 of the girls abducted that night remain missing, despite a global campaign, #BringBackOurGirls, involving celebrities and U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama calling for them to be found. There have been protests to remember them. Bring back our girls, now and alive. Nigeria's government and military faced heavy criticism for their handling of the incident. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, who declined to comment on the kidnappings for almost 3 weeks, was criticized and became the first sitting Nigerian president to lose an election in 2015. His successor, President Muhammadu Buhari, ordered a new investigation into the abductions in January 2016.
I feel really sad and really kind of disappointed in our government for not being able to bring back the Chibok girls sooner than now, because I feel that if I was one of the Chibok girls, I would still be in captivity up till now.
Esther Yakubu's daughter is one of the missing Chibok girls. The distressed parent, who has 4 other children, says she has wished for death many times.
For me, if not because of God, I don't know that up till now I'm still alive. Because when this incident happened, honestly, I just feel like if I'm not on the surface of this earth, it's better for me than to be alive to see and to witness such.
Hope for the girls was briefly raised in April 2015 when the Nigerian military announced it had rescued 200 girls and 93 women from the Sambisa forest. It was later revealed that Chibok girls were not among them.
I don't know why other children will be found and not our girls. Why not one? We know we'll not get all of them, but we want to see even one, so that she will tell us the story of what's happened to the others. So if this Boko Haram are defeated without our guess, I don't think Boko Haram is defeated.
About 2,000 girls and boys have been kidnapped by Boko Haram since the beginning of 2014, according to Amnesty International, which says they are used as cooks, sex slaves, fighters, and even suicide bombers.
The deepening hunger crisis in Malawi is threatening the survival of children.
And also it is the life-threatening part of malnutrition.
Malawi is facing its worst food crisis in 9 years.
Mugabe is the world's oldest sitting head of state, ahead of Queen Elizabeth of Britain.
The veteran leader seeks to temporarily forget his party's problems and instead focus on his legacy.
But he shows no sign of slowing down or stepping down from power after 36 years in office.
Technology isn't all scary. There's also fun stuff like gaming.
Lots of women do play games, whether it's on their phones or their tablets.
Then there are Africans who are using new tools to make other people's lives much easier.
We typed the whole CV on a small, QWERTY Nokia phone.
For all these and other technology and social media news, join me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC News.
It is breaking news, and it was D-Day for the state to find out whether or not the court's decision to allow Janus Wallows to be paroled has been granted. Let's find out now from our reporter on the scene, Tumaole Mshlauli, who's at on the High Court in Pretoria. Tumaole, once again, a very good morning. Tell us the breaking news.
Well, very good morning to you, Albus. And it was a judgment that was very, very brief and caught everyone here in the courtroom quite by surprise if you took some of the facial expressions and the gasps of exasperation as the judge delivered her judgment, basically saying that their leave to appeal application from the state has been declined. This effectively means that the state now has 21 days to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal and to put its case forward as to why it believes Janus Wallows should not be released after serving over 2 decades behind bars. Now, of course, he, according to the law, is eligible to be released in terms of the parole agreement, because a life sentence then someone is eligible for parole after serving over 2 decades. But, of course, there's so many factors around this case that are mitigating against that. If you take the arguments of the Justice Department, if you take the arguments of the Hani family and the SA Communist Party, who say that Janus Wallows should not be released under any circumstances because he has not met the conditions. One of the conditions being that, of course, remorse. They feel that he has not shown remorse, and of course the issue of not coming clean as to who else was behind the conspiracy, if you will, to murder the late SACP leader Chris Hani. Now, behind me in court, we have SACP leaders addressing the packed gallery of people who have come out to hear what would happen here in court. Of course, Alex Mashilo there talking about the party's disappointment at this particular decision. The SACP saying in some ways they expected it. However, they are bitterly disappointed that this has been granted, the order has been granted. Medi Mpohani is also amongst those in the gallery, the widow of the late Chris Hani, and she has also come out very strongly basically saying that justice is being seen to be perverted because Janusz Walusz is trying to misuse the avenues available to those in incarceration to basically undermine the Justice Department's own view of what needs to happen. Now, I'm going to step back into shot now as we speak. So now the state basically has 21 days further to appeal or petition the Supreme Court of Appeal to try and review the decision that was passed down here at the Pretoria High Court. And within that process, the SACP as well as the state say they will review the judgment in detail and see exactly what reasoning the judge came to come to this verdict, and they will challenge it vehemently. But that is back to you in the studio.
Well, we hear the chants of Panzi there in the background, but did you speak to any of the interested groups already, or perhaps it caught everybody off by surprise, the very short judgment? Was there time to engage with anybody, maybe Dimpo Hani or any of the affected parties there?
Well, Elvis, I got to speak very briefly to the interested parties because the judgment came down in a matter of seconds. The judge took to the stand basically and delivered her verdict and her judgment and stepped out of court. And people were bewildered, I must say, as the speed at which it was delivered. Behind me now, I'll just give you a glimpse of what is happening. I don't think I can sum it up in words. Behind me, there they go, leaving the courtroom. SACP supporters and other interested parties burst out into song. Let's just hear what they're saying. So I think they're just trying to take everything in their stride. Initially, very, very surprised, but the SACP leadership did step out in front of them immediately after the verdict was handed down to try and explain what this means and to also emphasize the fact that there are other processes which still need to go ahead, and they'll take it forward.
Thank you so much, Tumole Mashlauli there from the North Gauteng.
This is the situation right now.
Thank you so much. That's our reporter, Tumole Mashlauli, there at the North Gauteng High Court. As you heard there, case has been dismissed. We'll follow up on that story and keep you posted. Right now, we'll take a break, and Kendall Makhamate will be right back after that with your sports news.
They are basically arresting him, continue to arrest him on behalf of the apartheid government.
We are dealing with effects. We are not dealing with the causes. And for as long as we deal with effects, we are never going to solve this problem.
What do these people need in prison? Why are they there? The PAC, as Dr. Peku is saying, has been seeking answers, and they're not coming.
What kind of answers are you getting?
I really think I've answered that question.
I think it's a difficult question. I don't have an answer for it. How was it possible that they could operate with such impunity?
The only thing you want is closure.
The only thing we want is closure.
And unfortunately, I don't really have sympathy for the idea that if you're too old, you shouldn't stand trial.
That's Rights and Recourse with Dumile Mateza, every Sunday at 2 p.m. Central African Time, only on the SABC News Channel.
Trends follows fashion designers, cultural and lifestyle issues when and as they happen.
I'm always excited to see what the new fresh talent is bringing along. I'm always excited to see the direction that the designers are going in.
We celebrate the brilliant works of playwriter in Mpumalanga.
When everybody else talk about their own challenges, some talk about maybe the whaling that happens around Japan and other areas, I can be able to say, look, we have been confronted with the problem whereby our rhino population is going down.
We never miss previews of movies locally and abroad just to keep you informed.
So I'm a partner.
Welcome to the big boys.
Join Refulo Mula for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Friday at 9 p.m. on Trends.
Well, you heard the latest news that the case has been dismissed. Janusz Wallach might be out on parole. But let's find out from Tumawole Mohlauli, who is at the High Court in Pretoria. Tumawole, once again, you have a guest there with you. Let's hear it.
Right, thank you very much, Elvis. Without any further ado, I'm joined now by Mthunzi Mahaga. Mr. Mahaga, please let us know, in terms of the judgment itself, were you caught unawares, or were you expecting it to be so quick?
No, obviously, when we meticulously argued that she misdirected herself, we picked it up that we need to anticipate that she may dismiss it. We had prepared ourselves to move the petition today, but it doesn't have to be submitted to her because she's seized with the matter now. It will have to be submitted to the Supreme Court of Appeal within 30 days, but we're looking at either today or tomorrow after we've just scrutinized the judgment. It's a fairly short judgment that she's prepared. I think it's about 7 or 8 pages. So we're going to chambers now of the advocates so that we can go through the judgment and then work towards ensuring that by today or tomorrow we submit the petition to the SCA and a copy of it to the registrar here in the Gauteng Division of the High Court.
So for the ordinary man and woman on the street in the country and right around the world, because this is such a matter of high profile, what does it mean essentially? Is Janusz Wallach in the interim after this order, is he a free man?
You will recall that the earlier order had been automatically suspended by virtue of us having approached the court for a leave to appeal. Now that it is dismissed, the other party, given the fact that we've indicated that we will petition, the other party next week, Wednesday, they've indicated that they'll apply for his immediate release, which we will oppose because we still intend approaching the highest court in the NCA. So there's no way that we will allow that to happen. But legally, they are entitled or they are allowed to do that in terms of the Superior Courts Act, Section 18, subsection 3.
Right. And what do you think your prospects of success in terms of declining or opposing an application should you bring it forward, which is what is expected within 7 days?
The test is a very difficult one because they have to show or prove on a balance of probabilities, exceptional circumstances, and irreparable harm to the inmate. We will see how they're going to go about proving that, but we are prepared for that application in as much as we are prepared for the appeal or leave to appeal after we petition to the Supreme Court of Appeal.
Right. Mr. Mthunzi Mahaga, thank you very much for speaking to us. That was Mr. Mthunzi Mahaga from the Justice Department, just basically letting us know exactly which processes are now left or still lay ahead in terms of the response or the aftermath, rather, of the judgment here at the Pretoria High Court. Very, very, very brief judgment and kind of caught everyone off guard, if I can use that word, and rather caught them by surprise in terms of how quickly the judge delivered her verdict. And with that, it's back to you in the studio.
Tumawole Mohlauli at the High Court in Pretoria now. We'll keep you updated on that story as it unfolds. He was also trying to get hold of Dimpho Hani, the wife of Chris Hani, to give her take on the verdict. Now, the High Court in Pretoria has dismissed the state's bid for leave to appeal Janusz Wallach's parole. Justice Minister Masuta has approached the court, arguing that it erred in its judgment when it ruled that the SACP leader, Chris Hani's killer, should be granted parole. Now, that case was dismissed with cost.
In this matter, I've prepared a written judgment, of which I only read the order. 1, the first respondent's application for leave to appeal is dismissed. 2, the first respondent's order to pay the cost of the application, which costs include the cost of 2 counsel.
Now, that's your news for now. We'll take a break and we'll be right back with your sports news after that.
Trends follows fashion designers, cultural and lifestyle issues when and as they happen.
I'm always excited to see what the new fresh talent is bringing along. I'm always excited to see the direction that the designers are going in.
We celebrate the brilliant works of playwright in Mpumalanga.
When everybody else talk about their own challenges, some talk about maybe the whaling that happens around Japan and other areas, I can be able to say, look, we have been confronted with the problem whereby our rhino population is going down.
We never miss previews of movies locally and abroad just to keep you informed.
So I'm a partner.
Welcome to the big boys.
Join Refulo Mula for that 1 hour weekly dose of arts and entertainment news every Friday at 9 p.m. on Trends.
According to a UNICEF report called The Report Beyond Chibok, the number of children involved in suicide attacks in Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger has risen sharply over the past year from, listen to this, 4 in 2014 to 44 in 2015. More than 75% of the children involved in these attacks are girls. Now, released 2 years after the abduction of over 200 schoolgirls in Chibok, the report shows alarming trends in 4 countries affected by Boko Haram over the past 2 years. We're now joined by Patsy Nakel, the Chief of Communication in UNICEF, South Africa Services Unit. Very good morning to you, Patsy, and welcome.
Thank you.
Not a good morning at all, isn't it? Especially for the people of Nigeria and the girls in Chibok.
That's correct. Not at all a good day today. Exactly 2 years ago, we all know that the Chibok girls were abducted from school by Boko Haram. Unfortunately, the situation has not gotten much better. In fact, it's gone radically worse.
Give us an overview of the situation currently on the ground in Nigeria and Cameroon, Chad, and Niger.
Well, what we know for now, I myself was in Cameroon last week, and I visited a refugee camp up in far north Cameroon, which borders to Nigeria. It's Camp Minowao. It's a refugee camp for Nigerian refugees that is stretched to its limits. 56,000 people live there, most of them women and children. And this is just one of the many points where people are actually suffering in this entire region. It's not only Nigerians who are suffering, the refugees, they are spilling over into other countries, but also internally displaced people. We have approximately 120,000 internally displaced in Cameroon itself, in that part of the country, which actually, and this is true for the entire region, it's some of the poorest parts of that region. So these are people that already are fleeing from violence and unspeakable atrocities, and then they come to live with communities that themselves are also stretched to their capacities. So you can just imagine the limit of people that they're facing.
What is the current humanitarian situation, though, on the ground?
Well, the situation is that people are suffering in all sorts of ways. When it comes to children, they're not accessing school. They can't go to school because it's too dangerous, because the schools have been torched. They are not obviously feeling protected because of the violence and the attacks that are happening almost on a daily basis, if not on a weekly basis. Like the 5 days that I was there were 2 attacks in the far north region where I was. People don't have access to water. It's a very arid part of the country. For instance, the refugee camp there, people live on like 14 liters of water a day, which is nothing at all. There's nutrition crisis because of lack of access. For instance, the infrastructure is being affected by this. So it's really a 360-degree effect on people's lives. And of course, as always, we see this across the board in every conflict. Children are the ones who bear the brunt.
Now, talking about that, the report indicated that 75% of children involved in the attacks are girls. And these girls are being used as suicide bombers, most of them. Is that perhaps a true reflection of what's going on the ground, and that the girls are being brainwashed by Boko Haram in order to be utilized as suicide bombers?
Well, I'll tell you what I know. I met a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Fati, and that's not her real name. Obviously, we have to conceal her identity. But she was herself abducted by Boko Haram more than a year ago. She's Nigerian, and they just came to her house with guns and said, "You're going to have to marry us," she and her cousin. And they were forced to go along with these men, and she lived in captivity for 13 years. And in the interview that we had with her, she was telling us about the number of girls, other girls that she saw that were kidnapped. She said there were just too many, she couldn't keep count. And then very quickly after her abduction began, and her rape and her forced marriage and what have you, the Boko Haram fighters would come and tell these girls that we want you to be suicide bombers. And Fati's response was telling us that the response of the girls was that they all were like, me, take me. And we were shocked. We were like, we don't really understand how this happens. But then she explained, these girls were hoping that they could escape, so that they would give them the bombs and they would run to the nearest army base so that they would take the bombs off, and then they would be able to escape.
Oh, goodness.
Unfortunately, what we know now is a new trend with these suicide attacks is that they're detonated by remote control.
Why do you think they target girls, and especially children for that matter?
I really don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that. I myself have grown up in a civil war in Lebanon my entire childhood. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, quite so brutal. I mean, there's nothing really more emblematic of innocence than a child, and a girl child, for that. You know, and there's the results of that is that there's a lot of suspicion in the community that you can't trust anybody, not even an 8-year-old girl. So really, there's really no words to describe what's happening.
And then just finally, Patsy, UNICEF, what is an organization like UNICEF doing to assist and make sure that you know, there is at least support for the families and the children in Nigeria?
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that these kids are out of dangerous way. So we provide protection assistance as soon as these girls, and you know, as the army is moving into new areas and releasing more and more of these captives, we make sure that they access immediately the psychosocial support that they need. But not only them, also their families and their communities, because many of these girls and children are actually facing discrimination once they come back into the communities. They're, you know, teased and called, oh, you Boko Haram fighter or whatever. So there's a lot of suspicion, and there's a lot of work to be done. We also make sure that they get some sort of assistance in terms of education, in terms of like nutrition, food, enough food, vaccinations, everything that they need in order to survive. But it's a long haul. It's a long haul.
Patsy, thank you so much, and all the best of luck.
Thank you.
That was Patsy Nakel. She is the Chief of Communications at UNICEF Africa Services Unit, in studio with us. Now, for the latest on the Janusz Wallo's story, let's now cross live to our reporter, Tumali Mshlali, who's at the High Court in Pretoria. Once again, Tumali, good morning.
Very good morning to you, Elvis. Well, now for more reaction on the judgment from the High Court here in Pretoria, I'm joined by Medimpo Hani, the widow of the late Chris Hani. Medimpo, your reaction to what has happened here in court?
What the judge said was nothing new. We were expecting it. We knew she was going to deny us leave to appeal. But the minister is going to Bloemfontein, so it's not here nor there. So we are happy.
And in terms of the processes, do you feel that this matter is perhaps getting dragged on a bit longer than it is? Because you've made your feelings known that Wallo should not get bail. Do you still feel that the justice system is treating you family as fairly as the family that is obviously bereaved and has lost personally, whereas the nation has lost a hero?
Unfortunately, the justice system has got rules to follow. But I would like to make a remark about the judge. The judge was hostile from day one. She continues to be hostile. That's why we knew her decision was going to be today. What I found very disturbing as a black woman, when Senior Advocate Moerane was talking, the judge kept on interjecting. She didn't wait for Senior Advocate Moerane to finish his sentences. I thought that was not on. And I compared her behavior with Judge Masipa during Oscar's case. There was Judge Masipa, highly dignified lady with lots of experience, very calm, giving everybody in that court to finish their sentences. Not only did Judge Masipa, show us how judiciary should work in South Africa, when NPA went to her to ask for appeal, to appeal her judgment, Judge Masipa did not deny them that permission. And that says to me, Judge Masipa is confident in her skin, in her skills. She did not have a problem of an appeal by the NPA. And the fact that this particular judge decides to deny the minister to appeal, it says to me she is not very sure of the decision that she took, and she seems to be afraid for another court to look at this. And as a woman, I'm going to say I'm appealing to Judge Masipa to mentor all these young women judges. I'm sure she'll help us as a country.
Thank you very much for that, Medimpo. We appreciate you speaking to us. Now, let's just get a view from the SA Communist Party in terms of your reaction to the verdict today.
Firstly, we must say that we are disappointed with the verdict, but as Austimpo indicates, that we are happy that it is leaving her court. Now it will go to a different court. Disappointed in that a court of law is used to subvert the law, to interpret it differently when it's clearly, she's not clearly following the rules of the parole system. She interprets them her own way, and she's quite uncomfortable when she's told that she has interpreted this and that particular rule differently. And that's the reason why, for instance, the hostility towards the Justice, Advocate Moerane, Senior Counsel, was actually clearly a demonstration of irritation that she was feeling when she's asked that she's not following the law. That is why our happy side is on the fact that we're taking it to another court. And I think that the Supreme Court of Appeal will find a different ruling from what she has done here today. We feel it's a miscarriage of justice. It's unfair to the family. It's unfair to South Africans. It's actually unfair to the law that an unrepentant murderer who has not spoken the truth, who is still hostile to African people, it's actually being promoted and made a hero when actually the victims are still calling for justice. And here in the Palace of Justice, the judge had actually devoured justice.
We saw that there's a large contingent of people coming to show support both to Medimpo and also to call for justice and support of the SACP. What do you think ordinary South Africans take from this? What is their view and what is their reaction if you had an opportunity to gauge from the rank and file?
Many of our comrades want to be here, and we want to thank our comrades for coming in their numbers to support the family. They were here on Tuesday. There were other marches in different places, even in Cape Town, for instance. Our comrades gathered to actually demonstrate in solidarity with the family when it's appearing here together with the Communist Party. But generally, it's a sign of how our people still feel about losing their hero, Comrade Chris Hani. And we cannot allow and will not allow his death to be in vain.
Thank you very much. Well, that was the views and reactions both from the SACP and from Medimpo about the verdict that was passed down here at the Pretoria High Court. With that, it's back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Paul. That's... well, did I say Paul? Because Paul is sitting here with me in studio. That's Tumoholi Mshlauli in Pretoria. Now, Tsitsi is standing by. You will be chatting to me shortly about some weather issues. But let's first look at the newspapers from around the globe. In fact, here on the continent, we're starting off in Lesotho. The Lesotho Times reports that Lesotho has vowed to continue investing in M Global. It's a pyramid scheme, people, which has taken Lesotho by storm, but has since been condemned by the Central Bank of Lesotho and the Consumer Protection Association. Just keep it there for a second. We will be talking about this story, M, next week, so you have to stay tuned. They say there on this paper, Lesotho is defiant over M. We will investigate that. Now, moving in onto Namibia, the Namibian says that President Hage Geingob has stood by the head of his security detail, the Deputy Commissioner Johan Njagonguru, despite advice from security agencies to get rid of him. And then in Swaziland, the Swaziland Observer reports that Princess Shikanyiso is hesitant about the distribution of condoms to the youth. Well, that's another one there. Now, I promised you we're going to speak to him. According to a new study in the journal Science Advances, the position of the Earth's axis has shifted because of melting ice sheets and natural changes in water storage on land. Now, the melting of ice sheets and subsequent rising sea levels caused by climate change are believed to be the cause of this polar shift, propelling the North Pole to go towards the United Kingdom. Our weather and environmental enthusiast, Paul Manari, is here to tell us more about this. Paul, first and foremost, explain to us how the Earth is moving or rotating around its axis and this usual wobble that it does have.
Yeah, you know, that's how we get day and night, basically. The Earth is just rotating around, we assumed around its own axis, just like that. But now and then it changes a little bit. We call this eccentric tilt, which is about 23.5 degrees. And it causes a bit of a wobble, just like when you spin a top. Yeah, and at some stage when it slows down, it has that bit of a wobble.
Yes,
so the Earth is doing the same thing. And this change or this rotation is basically as an effect of the amount of mass or weight distributed around the world, around the planet. And that is also influenced by the amount of water or any sort of solution that is on the Earth's surface compared to the amount of solid grounds, such as our continents and so on. So that causes that bit of a wobble. And the normal one, 23.5 degrees, usually used to cause the North Pole to shift slightly towards Canada. And that's natural. That's supposed to happen. But now, the slight change is that it's sort of become a lot bigger. Scientists found that it's the bit of the eccentric tilt is gone to almost even 70 degrees at some point because of the melting of the ice sheets, because of global warming. Now the water distribution, the mass distribution of the Earth and the planet is slightly different now. So more water and the water reserve or storages on the Earth are making the poles now to shift slightly towards the United Kingdom and no longer towards Canada. Yeah, it has its implications on what you should expect on the Earth in terms of temperatures and so forth.
So how is climate change affecting this according to these new findings?
Yes. Now, I've been talking about sea level rising and ice caps melting because now the Earth is much warmer than it used to be. So obviously when things get hotter, ice will melt and all of that. So the climate change part is coming in a sense that more ice sheets melting, the poles are shrinking. You know, our glacial areas are shrinking, becoming much smaller, basically what you're seeing there. And when that happens, that means there'll be now a lot more water in our oceans and more water on the planet. And that is what's causing the planet to slightly, or the poles to slightly change towards a different direction. Now, the implication, they may not be super humongous, but the implication comes in. Now, climate change is causing a lot of changes within our natural habitats and our environment. So areas that were much drier could even get a lot more water than expected, or they can even get drier than they were. So the Sahara Desert can be even much bigger and covering places such as, you know, the DRC. Imagine that happened. DRC is in the tropics. Yes. So imagine something like that should happen. You know, it could be quite devastating. And with the ice sheets also melting like this, the North Pole will be away, meaning what happens to our polar bears or all of our polar life and Antarctica, you know, that sort of lifestyle. What happens to the planet when that happens?
So it's either two things that will happen. Either England will become part of the polar or the polar will be connected to England.
Exactly. Yeah. And with all of it comes with some serious changes in the way we live. Lots of people from England might migrate to more tropical areas such as the DRC or...
So they'll be invading Africa.
So they could be invading Africa or even Brazil, you know, even India, those places that are much closer to the tropics. So that's the impact that it could have. And also it could flood a lot of coastal areas. Cape Town could no longer be the coast that we go to. Bloemfontein could now be the new coast. So you see the changes that are coming in. They're quite scary in some instances, but also causing a lot of nerves to a lot of people.
Now, because the axis is turning, and I don't know how fast, you said 23%, something like that. Now, you will find some countries where people normally do this. Is that part and parcel of it?
No. We wouldn't actually feel it that physically. You know, for humans, so you and I, on our daily lifestyle, we wouldn't feel the Earth wobbling and maybe get dizzy from it. No, we wouldn't get that. But it causes longer winters maybe because the tilt, you know, that's what affects how closer we are to the sun or how further away from the sun. So during winter time, we have tilted slightly away from the sun, so it gets much cooler. So if it gets even bigger, then we might even get even colder winters and so forth. And the people that the North Pole would then be tilted closer to the sun, meaning they would get a much warmer summer or much longer summer period.
This world might change, Chetsi. So perhaps in another 100 years, we might be having igloos here in Johannesburg instead of proper houses.
Yeah, exactly. If we carry on the way we do with our big cars and our overconsumption and leading to business as usual with this heating continue at a much higher rate than it's supposed to be, then definitely the planet is going to change. Even if we cut our emissions now, I mean, carbon stays in the atmosphere for quite a long time. Yeah, so we have to take drastic measures to make sure that we curb this whole climate change issue. So we have to do every single thing possible. Carbon emissions, you know, the Paris Agreement, we have to take it serious, and we all have to abide by it.
So did you sell your 4x4 already, the diesel one?
You know, I never had a 4x4, and I doubt I'll ever have one. So, yeah, I'm an eco-friendly person. Green living is the way I live my life.
That's Tsetsi Monari. So you got to change your ways as well. Tsetsi Paul Monari is an enthusiast, of course, environmental weather enthusiast here with us in studio. Well, your continental weather is up next, and we'll be back at the top of the hour.
Good afternoon. You're watching the Midday Report.
Lunchtime news amplified.
But for now, this is what they call home. Their hope to shift to a higher ground seems to be against the tide.
Midday Report provides you with more than just news stories.
I just want Port Elizabeth to know that they own a world-class theatre.
Good afternoon. You're with the news at 1 in the headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. This is News Live. I'm Natasha Thorpe. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up in your headlines.
Good afternoon and welcome to A View from the House.
For all things news, tune in to Midday Report weekdays at 12 noon only on the SABC News channel.
In Bupilong, we celebrate those who take strides doing good and changing the world.
I really think that education has to be revisited, and it's an integral part of teaching young people skills of the future.
There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
I think that the treatment should be made available, actually, because it's costly. Growth hormones are very, very costly.
Where there is a challenge, we bring hope.
I'm alive. And the brain tumor is gone.
Join your host Puleng Mulabati every Friday at 17:30 for more uplifting stories.
It's Thursday, the 14th of April 2016. This is the final hour. It's Newsroom on SABC News, Channel 404. Jumbo Africa. A very warm welcome as we broadcast live from Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Presley.
And I'm Renee Vest, and we'll be with you for the last hour of the show. We are also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Today marks the second anniversary of the missing Nigerian girls, and of course we've been asking you, has the world forgotten about the Chibok girls? Send us your comments to our Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, or send us a message on our Facebook page. But let's take a look at the news-making headlines.
Thank you, Renee. Top story this hour. The High Court in Pretoria has dismissed the state's bid for leave to appeal Janusz Wallus's parole. Political parties pledge to ensure peaceful local government elections later this year. And it's been 2 years since the notorious abduction of Nigeria's Chibok girls, and their families are still waiting for their return home. Those are all your news headlines, but before we get to it, let's find out from Kendall Makramate what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning, Kendall.
Elvis, good morning to you. Good morning to Renee, as well as everyone at home as well. Good morning to you. This is what we have in the sports today. Mamelodi Sundowns turn on the style and extend their lead at the top of the table with a 3-1 win over Polokwane City. Antoine Griezmann's double inspires Steely Atletico Madrid as Los Colchoneros dump defending champions Barcelona out of the UEFA Champions League.
Great cross! Goal Atletico! Antoine Griezmann nets again!
All this is unseeded Yuri Wesley of Czech Republic knocks world number 1 and defending champion Novak Djokovic out of the Monte Carlo Masters. All this, as well as an interview that Alistair Coetzee, the new Springbok coach, had with Verin Kirtley this morning. We'll be bringing that to you at about 11:30. Be sure to stay around for all of that. Back to the main desk for the news.
Thank you, Kendall. He'll be back later, as promised, but first the news with Renee Vest.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Breaking news, the High Court in Pretoria has dismissed the state's bid for leave to appeal Janusz Wallus's parole. Justice Minister Michael Masuta had approached the court arguing that it erred in its judgment when it ruled that SACP leader Chris Hani's killer should be granted parole. Earlier this year, Masuta set aside the Medical Parole Board's decision to grant Wallus parole and called for further dialogue with the SACP and Hani's family. Hani's wife, Dimpo, previously objected to Wallus being freed on parole, saying he should tell the truth. Hani was the leader of the SACP and chief of staff of Umkhonto Sizwe, the armed wing of the ANC. He was assassinated on the 10th of April, 1993.
In this matter, I've prepared a written judgment, of which I only read the order. 1. The first respondent's application for leave to appeal is dismissed. 2. The first respondent's order to pay the cost of the application, which costs include the cost of 2 counsel.
Meanwhile, Justice spokesperson Mthunzi Maga says they will oppose any application to have Wallus released on parole. Maga says they will approach the highest court in the land to appeal the matter.
Obviously, when we meticulously argued that she misdirected herself, we picked it up that we need to anticipate that she may dismiss it. We had prepared ourselves to move the petition today, but it doesn't have to be submitted to her because she's seized with the matter now. It will have to be submitted to the Supreme Court of Appeal within 30 days, but we're looking at either today or tomorrow after we've just scrutinized the judgment. It's a fairly short judgment that she's prepared. I think it's about 7 or 8 pages. So we're going to chambers now of the advocates so that we can go through the judgment and then work towards ensuring that by today or tomorrow we submit the petition to the SCA and a copy of it to the registrar here in the Gauteng division of the High Court.
So for the ordinary man and woman on the street in the country and right around the world, because this is such a matter of high profile, what does it mean essentially? Is Janus Walus in the interim after this order, is he a free man?
You will recall that the earlier order had been automatically suspended by virtue of us having approached the court for a leave to appeal. Now that it is dismissed, the other party, given the fact that we've indicated that we will petition, the other party next week, Wednesday, they've indicated that they'll apply for his immediate release, which we will oppose because we still intend approaching the highest court in the NCA. So there's no way that we will allow that to happen. But legally, they are entitled or they are allowed to do that in terms of the Supreme Courts Act, Section 18, subsection 3.
Right. And what do you think your prospects of success in terms of declining or opposing an application should you bring it forward, which is what is expected within 7 days?
The test is a very difficult one because they have to show or prove on a balance of probabilities, exceptional circumstances, and irreparable harm to the inmate. We will see how they're going to go about proving that, but we are prepared for that application in as much as we are prepared for the appeal or leave to appeal after we petition to the Supreme Court of Appeal.
Political parties have pledged to play their part to ensure that their local government elections are peaceful. The South African Local Government Association and the Moral Regeneration Movement signed an elections charter in Johannesburg yesterday. The Elections Charter is a document detailing the values and ethics parties are expected to abide by as they campaign ahead of the August polls.
They may hold opposing and often confrontational political views, but for one day, South Africa's political players have come together under one roof to sign the Charter of Election Ethics, which will govern their campaigning ahead of the local government elections.
Political party leaders say signing up for the Electoral Charter of Ethics was only the first step. They have also vowed to carry the message embodied within the Charter to their rank and file.
It's an important step in maturing our democracy that we've signed this pledge. Every so often, parties have to go back to the electorate to get a mandate, and some parties win and some parties lose, but it's the spirit in which we hold these elections and participate in the elections that's critical.
It is such events that ensures that our people remain focused upon what is best for South Africa, and that is that we shouldn't take elections, free and fair elections, for granted. Each and every one of us as citizens and as political parties have a role to play.
We welcome the opportunity to be amongst the community of political parties in the signing ceremony of the Charter. As the Professor Zulu has said, there is a culture of impunity amongst political parties in their conduct of elections campaign, primarily because there are absolutely no consequences for such conduct.
I express our support for the Charter of Election Ethics and commit the IFP to uphold the principles therein. Since our first democratic elections, the IFP has raised concerns over the very challenges this charter actually addresses.
We make primary call on our own leaders and members of the Congress of the People, not just to admire the pictures on the television. They must study the contents of this document.
The Charter also demands political parties promote respect for the rule of law. Tumalo Mohlaudi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Hundreds of mine workers at Shiva Uranium Mine near Klerksdorp in Northwest are uncertain about their future. 74% of the mine is owned by the Gupta's troubled Johannesburg Stock Exchange-listed company Oak Bay. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan says if arms manufacturer Denel pushes ahead with a joint venture with a company linked to the Gupta family without the necessary permission, they will be found guilty of financial misconduct. Gordon's warning is apparently an effort to reassert control over state-owned enterprises, some of which are reported to have flouted governance and treasury rules to favour some companies in the awarding of contracts.
Reporting for duty. Many uncertain about their future due to reports that owners of this mine have left the country. Now they want answers from management.
We are very, very worried. We are demoralized. We don't know actually what is happening. They don't even address us, tell us nothing about the situation.
A concerned Nelly Bezaiden-Hout from Tihane Township here in Hartbeesfontein is the sole breadwinner.
And I think we are going to suffer a lot because in this house I'm a breadwinner. I take care of 2 children.
The National Union of Mine Workers and its federation, COSATU, are demanding a meeting with the mine owners.
The workers have been a lot of concern in terms of they are uncertain in terms of their jobs. But we said that we must wait for that meeting of a CO and with our leadership nationally.
Oak Bay Resources and Energy have warned that the developments could lead to retrenchments, but have denied that the Gupta family has skipped the country. Tsolofelo Matibedi, SABC News, Hartbeesfontein, near Klerksdorp.
Prayers and marches are expected to be held across Nigeria on the second anniversary of Boko Haram's abduction of more than 200 schoolgirls from Chibok in Borno State, Nigeria. The marches started yesterday with members of the Bring Back Our Girls protest group walking through the streets of the capital, Abuja, tying ribbons in specific locations in memory of the schoolgirls that were abducted.
2 years ago, in a high-profile attack that sparked a global outcry, Boko Haram militants raided the school in April 2014 while the girls were taking exams. They loaded 270 of them onto trucks, though around 50 escaped shortly afterwards. And 2 years on, 219 of the girls abducted that night remain missing, despite a global campaign, #BringBackOurGirls, involving celebrities and U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama calling for them to be found. There have been protests to remember them. Bring back our girls, now and alive. Nigeria's government and military faced heavy criticism for their handling of the incident. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, who declined to comment on the kidnappings for almost 3 weeks, was criticized and became the first sitting Nigerian president to lose an election in 2015. His successor, President Muhammadu Buhari, ordered a new investigation into the abductions in January 2016.
I feel really sad and really kind of disappointed in our government for not being able to bring back the Chibok girls sooner than now, because I feel that if I was one of the Chibok girls, I would still be in captivity up till now.
Esther Yakubu's daughter is one of the missing Chibok girls. The distressed parent, who has 4 other children, says she has wished for death many times.
For me, if not because of God, I don't know that up till now I'm still alive. Because when this incident happened, honestly, I just feel like if I'm not on the surface of this earth, it's better for me than to be alive to see and to witness such.
Hope for the girls was briefly raised in April 2015 when the Nigerian military announced it had rescued 200 girls and 93 women from the Sambisa forest. It was later revealed that Chibok girls were not among them.
I don't know why other children will be found and not our girls. Why not one? We know we'll not get all of them, but we want to see even one, so that she will tell us the story of what happened to the others. So if this Boko Haram are defeated without our girls, I don't think Boko Haram is defeated.
About 2,000 girls and boys have been kidnapped by Boko Haram since the beginning of 2014, according to Amnesty International, which says they are used as cooks, sex slaves, fighters, and even suicide bombers.
This month has not been a good time for rhinos. At least 7 were poached in the Kruger National Park, one of the hardest hit areas by poaching, and a further 4 were killed in the Eastern Cape. Now, these incidents continue to highlight the plight of rhino poaching. Earlier this week, we were joined by 50/50 presenter and filmmaker Bonnet Debord, who told us about the orphan rescue operations she discovered while filming for her rhino poaching documentary strip.
It was a very dark time for our rhinos over Easter, but luckily a little orphan was saved. Now, as sad as it is, we have been waiting for 18 months to film an orphan rescue in Kruger. Now, specifically Kruger, as it is the hardest hit in terms of numbers, and I've spent a lot of time with the vets there over the 2 years we've been making this documentary strip, and I just really admire their approach in saving and rescuing many, many rhinos we never get to hear about. Now, it's of course not something you can plan for or set up for, despite myself and my film director looking at the peak poaching months and then staying in the park for weeks at a time over these periods to try and capture this very important scene on camera. But we just haven't been able to do so until now. This time, Always, we were right there when the call came in from tourists in the southern part of Kruger who had seen a poached rhino carcass right next to the road, and sadly a little calf standing next to her mother. Just awful. For me personally, probably the most heartbreaking scene in this poaching war. Now, you must understand what goes on in a scene like this.
Yeah, tell us about the operations.
Yes, this little calf, her mother was poached in the night, and these calves are normally dehydrated. It's Kruger, they have to fend off predators. We've seen incidents where calves have had their ears eaten off by hyenas. Last week, a little baby in Kruger didn't make it due to severe injuries from predators. So it's awful to imagine. And just to give you and the viewers some idea of the trauma these little guys go through, I brought along an audio clip of a little white rhino calf standing next to his mother. Obviously, he doesn't know that the vets are helping his mother, trying to save his mother. Very traumatic, and we can listen to the sound. Let's have a listen.
Okay. Where does the calf go after the rescue?
Okay, so after the calf has been located and rescued, then the calf will be taken to a secure location inside Kruger. They are kept in large boma facilities. But now remember, rhinos are very sociable animals, so they bond with each other. And the Sandparks team have had great success by using an older female, a teenager, as a surrogate mother to these little guys, for them to settle in and really help them get through this very traumatic experience they've been through. If the rescued calf needs specialized care and treatment, it will be sent to an orphanage. We actually accompanied a little orphan that had severe panga wounds on his lower back to this orphanage. When we got there, the vet attended to the wounds, treated it, cleaned it, and they gave him his first bottle, which he really, really enjoyed. And yesterday I spoke to the head vet at Sandparks, Dr. Marcus Hofmeyer, and according to him, both of these calves are doing really well.
Now, there's some of the pictures of the calf there, but how long do they stay at this rehab center, and when they are released back into the wild, how quickly do they adapt?
It all depends. The fact of the matter is they are taken out of where they really belong, and that is the wild in Kruger. So what they'll do is either they will keep it at the boma and see how the orphan does, and then hopefully release it back into the wild. That is the aim, the end goal. But as I said, these guys are doing an amazing job saving and rescuing these calves, because as the rhino numbers drop, the conservation value of each calf is critical. We need to save as many as we can.
Now, in the beginning of our conversation, you indicated that you've been shooting strip for quite a while now. Are we almost there yet?
We are almost there. We are almost there. We are in edit at the moment. We still have some things we need to tie up here and there, but it's really exciting because now we're putting the puzzle together. And we are hoping that it will be done and released in spring, so later this year.
Liberation struggle stalwart, former Robben Island prisoner and former leader of the PAC, Clarence Makwetu, will be buried at his home village of Kofimbaba in the Eastern Cape. The President, Jacob Zuma, declared that the funeral would be a special provincial official funeral. Today, the communities of Queenstown and Kofimbaba will pay homage to the man who they called their father at a memorial service at the Kofimbaba High School. Our SABC reporter, Unati Bengose, now joins us from the memorial service. Unati, a very good morning to you and welcome. Paint us a picture as to what is happening there.
A very good morning to you, Elvis, and a warm welcome to all our SABC News viewers. Indeed, we are coming to you live from Kofimbaba. This is the venue for the final memorial service for the late, great Clarence Mlamli Makwetu. You'd remember that he was born in this area some 88 years ago. We're told that he was born on the 6th of December in 1928. This is where he grew up. This is where he first got involved into politics. And today you are here to pay homage to him. It's a platform for the community to pay homage to him. They say that he's not spoken of in the same breath as the other late greats like your Dr. Nelson Mandela, Oliver Reginald Tambo. But believe me, they do hold him in the very same high esteem. As you can see behind me, people are beginning to trickle in ahead of the start of this memorial service. It is a memorial service that has been organized by the movement in which he spent the twilight of his political career in, that is the Pan-Africanist movement. But given his political ties with the PAC, you'll see quite a number of PAC T-shirts, a number of PAC stalwarts that are here also to pay homage to him. And of course, they'll be joined by community members. As for the family, we are told that they are still at the farm where the funeral service will be held, and they are doing some rituals that were meant to be part of the funeral service. We understand that it's going to be a very, very shortened funeral service because it's going to be held at the farm where he resided, but his actual burial is going to take place some 15 kilometers away at Woita, where he was born. However, to speak more about what is happening here, I'm now joined by the man who was by his bedside when Clarence Makwetu passed on, a man who is his friend, who's been a comrade to him, much younger than him, but I understand that they shared a very, very close relationship. Say a very good morning to you and a warm welcome to you. But tell me, how do you feel? I mean, we are heading towards the final day of Mr. Clarence Makwetu on the surface of this earth.
I'm feeling very sad about him because I know he took a long time to seek, and then he participated a long time in the struggle of Azania. Hence, he started as a youth league of the African National Congress and then became the member of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania and then the first Pan-Africanist movement of Azania. Now he's a member of the PAM now, which is the Pan-Africanist movement of Azania.
A very noble initiative here hosting this memorial service, and I see there are quite a number of people. I mean, I'm seeing some Azapo members also part of this. Tell me, what's the significance of having this memorial service here in his hometown?
The purpose of this memory for Clarence Mlamli Makwetu is that he is born here at Woita, and then he is reciting at Gwaju Farm. We know that by the Saturday, all the people will not be here. That's why you are making this preparation for this memorial service, so that all the people of this town, all the neighboring towns, for instance, even the Christian District Municipality, we have invited them all, they must all, because he was not only the member of the party, but the member of the entire nation. They must come and say goodbye, farewell. Thank you.
Just before I let you go, tell me, upon his retirement, you understand that he came back to Kofimbaba. What contribution did he make while he was here?
He's a great man. All the people around him, in this area particularly, he taught us how to use land. Hence, he passed away. He was still yearning about land, nothing else, because he said, land is everything.
Right, that was Utata Udala Gutetwa Wakini, a friend to Mr. Clarence Makwetu. He was telling us about what will be happening here today. And he touched quite clearly on the issue.
It seems like we lost that link there to a report on Ngati Bengose in Eastern Cape there. Now let's go to the Northern Cape now. Schooling problems in the Northern Cape have not been resolved. It has been 4 days now that there hasn't been any schooling at Olehlile Mankwe Intermediate School. Last week, that community threatened to close down 4 high schools. For the latest, we are joined now in Kimberley by Tsepo Parasi, the head of the Department of Education in the Northern Cape. Mr. Parasi, a very good morning to you and welcome. Can you first and foremost tell us what is the latest concerning that school, 80 Olehlile Mankwe, the intermediary school?
What we have received as a report is that the neighboring school that in the morning was threatened to be closed, they have returned to normality. Both the educators and the learners have gone back to classes and they are continuing as normal. However, at Olehlile Mankwe, the situation is still the same as the beginning of this week.
Mm-hmm. What have the department done to resolve the situation in the area?
I had a meeting with the school governing body at the beginning of this year and subsequently wrote them a letter informing what should happen after they had registered their dissatisfaction in terms of the decision of the head of department to appoint the principal. Mm-hmm. However, they have never responded in terms of the letter that I wrote them, the procedure that they must follow. And at least for the first term, the school went on normally. And of course, the break with the beginning of the second term, they started again denying the children to go for normal schooling. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are.
Now, you mentioned that you wrote to them in terms of the procedure that they were supposed to follow. What is that procedure and why they're not following it?
We seem to have people who do not want to confine themselves to the legal and policy framework as it relates to recruitment and selection of educators in the department. Every year we release a gazette wherein we seek to fill vacant managerial posts in our schools. And we normally finalize that towards the end of the year. So we are sharing this responsibility between myself as head of department and school governing bodies. Once people apply for a post in one of our schools, we send them a list of qualifying candidates in terms of meeting the requirements. And then SGBs who then undertake shortlisting and interviews, whereafter they can then recommend to the head of the department, based on those 2 processes, who the best candidate is to be appointed as principal. Now, in terms of the South African Schools Act, they must recommend 3 names. And the head of the department has got the right to choose any one of the 3, having ranked them from first choice, second choice, and third choice. But in the case of Olehlile Mankwe, they have recommended Mr. Oliphant, the one that they don't want now, as their first choice. And we acted on what they recommended.
So they don't want the recommended person that's currently in the position to be the principal. Is that what you're saying?
He has been appointed. The person that has been appointed, it is them that they recommended.
Mm-hmm. And now they don't want him?
And now they don't want him.
All right. Now, how do you plan to deal with the fresh phenomenon of these communities closing down schools when they have some sort of grievance? We saw it just last week in Valspan near Jan Kempdorp, and now it has moved to the neighboring Pampierstad.
Well, it's probably a problem that we have in the Northern Cape. Remember, in a short history, in 2012, schools were closed in John Taula where people were having gripes with the Department of Public Works for building roads. Absolutely nothing to do with our programs in education. They repeated the same in 2014, where they closed schools alongside the road that they were contesting for. And we took the decision in 2014 that those children must repeat the grades in which they were, which means they ended up being in a disadvantage because they're lagging 1 year behind to their peers. It's now repeating itself in one part of the province, which is Pampierstad, and there's some similarity. These are some of the areas that were incorporated in the province, being in the northwest, having a history of being part of Butachwana. We seem to discern that kind of pattern coming from there.
So, just briefly and lastly, what message will the department now send, the Department of Education, to these communities who are doing this type of thing where they keep their children away from school and closing them down?
What we stand to do as a department, practically we have written a letter to the chairperson of the school governing body and the governing body that we would be effecting what the law allows us to do. We're going to lay a charge against them because, remember, access to education is a constitutional right. What they are currently doing is they are infringing on the right of these learners to access their constitutional given right to education. And that's what we will be doing. However, somewhere in June, we'll be having a provincial education summit wherein, as people who would be part of the summit, would be parents and representatives of school governing bodies, who will be sharing with everybody in the province this experience that we are carrying from 2012, where if people do not get their way, whether it's related to education or not, the first thing that they do is to prevent children from going to school. So we'll be emphasizing that at the Provincial Education Summit that will be led by the Premier somewhere around June.
Mr. Parazi, thank you so much for your time joining us in our Kimberley studios. That was the head of the Department of Education in the Northern Cape. All right, that's where we got to leave it for now. I think we're going to go straight to Kendall Makamati, or do we first take a break? Well, we'll see what's happened. Let's go straight to Kendall.
Elvis, thank you very much. I am Kendall Makamat, and I've got your sports on Newsroom, time being 11:32. Top of our stories in this bulletin is about PSL football, where Bidvest Wits' 1-0 win away to Jomo Cosmos was enough to keep the pressure on Absa Premiership log leaders Mamelodi Sundowns. The Brazilians, on the other hand, beat 10-man Polokwane City 3-1 at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium.
With 6 matches remaining in the Absa Premiership this season, there are only 4 points separating the top 2 teams on the log standings. Leonardo Castro strikes in both halves, and Kick and Dolly's goal deep in the second half were enough to keep Sundowns comfortable at the summit of the log.
The 2-goal cushion, individual effort like only King and Dolly can do, dabbing away.
To add salt to Polokwane City's wounds, Edgar Managa was given his marching orders for plunging on Kama Billiard.
Right in front of him.
After that, City took the game to Sundowns, but in vain. Muscle strains and fatigue are slowly creeping in as we are heading towards the end of the season. Jomo Cosmos, who are second from the bottom on the log, welcomed Bidvest Wits at the Olen Park Stadium in Potchefstroom. But the students did not show any respect for their hosts, as they were keen to maintain a touching distance to the log leaders on the standings. There is nothing that Sherwin Naika could have done to stop Enrico Botes, who pounced on the loose ball after the Inclitis in-swinging free kick. Ezenkosi pushed hard in the closing 10 minutes, but Gavin Hunt's men were resolute. The result keeps the pressure on Sundowns, as Wits maintain their title challenge, but Ezenkosi remain in the relegation zone.
Draw.
Meanwhile, Ajax Cape Town and Platinum Stars played out to a 1-1 draw at the Cape Town Stadium last night. Tashreeq Morris opened the scoreboard for the Urban Warriors in the first half, but against the run of play, Ndumiso Mapena found the equalizer for Stars in the second half. Dikwena remain in the third position, while Ajax are ninth. Mtutuzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
And so here's a summary of last night's Absa Premiership results. Just let you see, like, first up was that Kaizer Chiefs draw against Aces on Tuesday night. But last night, we had quite a few goals scored, not in the Ajax Cape Town Platinum Stars, only one apiece. That draw in Cape Town. And then Jomo Cosmos, they lost 1-0 to Bidvest Wits, who obviously keep pressure on Mamelodi Sundowns. They're sitting second on the log. Polokwane City being thrashed, shown a masterclass by Mamelodi Sundowns at the Old Peter Mokaba Stadium. 3-1 win for Sundowns as they cement their place at the top of the log. Speaking of which, here's a look at the top 8 of the PSL log. Mamelodi Sundowns sitting on 55 after 24 matches played. We've got Bidvest Wits. They're also still breathing down heavy on their necks. They're on 51 points, still 4 points adrift. And then after that, of course, we've got Platinum Stars and Kaizer Chiefs bringing up the rear of the top 4. Goes through to the bottom. There's Chippa United and Free State Stars on 34 and 32 points respectively in 7 and 8. And the bottom half of the log, you can see there's been a movement. Ajax Cape Town going upwards, Super Sport United downwards, both in 31 points. It's really a single goal difference between those two teams. And then right to the bottom, University of Pretoria on 14 on 20 points, and then Jomo Cosmos on 20 points. Once again, a goal difference. That's all that separates those two. Maritzburg United cemented to the bottom of the log. This, incidentally, is, if you don't remember, the team that Steve Compella, the Kaizer Chiefs coach, came from. Now move through to football a little further afield. In the UEFA Champions League holders, Barcelona crashed out of the Champions League after being stifled by a brilliant and well-organized Atletico Madrid last night. Now, as it happened, the Catalan side were knocked out by 2 goals from Antoine Griezmann in a 2-0 quarter-final second-leg defeat. Griezmann headed home from Saul Niguez's cross to give the home side a deserved lead. The French forward then scored again from the penalty spot. This following a handball from Andres Iniesta to complete a 3-2 aggregate victory that eliminated Barca at the quarter-final stage for the second time in 3 seasons. Then we had Bayern Munich drawing 2-2 at Benfica to reach the Champions League semi-finals with a 3-2 aggregate victory and remain on track for a treble of titles. Arturo Vidal's 38th minute goal cancelled out the hosts' early lead through Raúl Jiménez's header. And Bayern added another goal through Thomas Miller's volley, this from a Javi Martinez header.
On Alonso's corner, which is tapped into the net. That surely is that. Standing over this free kick.
The Portuguese side found a late equaliser through Talisca.
Well, it may well be nothing more than a consolation, but it's a sensational strike that at least gets Benfica back on.
Now, Olympic gold medal winners Chad Leclerc and Cameron van der Berg provided the highlights on day 4 of the South African National Aquatic Championships and Olympic trials in Durban. Leclerc won gold in the 200-meter butterfly, while van der Berg qualified for the Rio Olympics in the 200-meter breaststroke.
As expected, Leclerc set the pace as soon as he hit the water. At the halfway mark, the Durbanite was comfortably in front, and he maintained that lead to win gold in 1 minute 55.04 seconds, followed by Sebastian Rousseau and Dylan Bosch. Meanwhile, Van der Berg qualified after an impressive performance in the 200-meter breaststroke semi-final. Van der Berg clocked 2 minutes 11.10 seconds, good enough for participation at the Olympics.
I just want to say thanks to the crowd, because when we turned at 150, I don't think I was on the market, but to everybody really screaming and shouting and stuff, it was really motivating.
The country's Paralympic swimmers also continue to make their mark. In the 100-meter butterfly, S10 swimmer Ahmad Hassim posted a qualifying time in the heats and then later bagged gold in the S1 to S13 final.
Yeah, I trained hard for this meet, despite going through quite a bit. And I'm just happy to have come up with a Paralympic qualifying time. And I've been putting the hours in the gym, making some gains, and I'm pretty happy.
S13 swimmer Alani Ferreira also qualified in the 100-meter butterfly. She claimed silver in the final for S1 to S15 classes. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Now, just 1 month away from the second Grand Slam tennis tournament of the year, the French Open, the third day of action at the Monte Carlo Masters produced the upset of the tournament as world number 1 Novak Djokovic succumbed to the Czech Republic's Jiří Vasily in 3 sets. Rafael Nadal and Stanislav Wawrinka, however, made good and advanced to the third round.
Following his triumph in the Miami Open, Serbian's Novak Djokovic got his Monte Carlo title defense off to a shaky start. He lost the opening set, committing 12 unforced errors compared to 6 of Vesely. However, the number 1 seed fought back to force the game into a third set. In the end, the world number 55 Vesely prevailed 6-4, 2-6 and 6-4 to claim the memorable victory. Rafael Nadal began the quest for his 48th singles title on a clay with a comprehensive win over Aliaza Benatni. The King of Clay dispatched the British number 2 6-3 and 6-3 to advance to the next round. In the earlier matches, Stan Wawrinka continued his impressive exploits on clay courts. The French Open defending champion downed German's Philippe Kohlschuber 7-6 and 7-5 to advance to the next round. There was little to separate the two in the opening exchanges, with the set decided on tie break. Despite the Germans' resistance, Wawrinka proved too strong as he went on to record his 4th consecutive win over Kohlschuber. Joseph Mohali, SABC News.
Now, newly appointed Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee has got his work cut out for him, with less than 8 weeks to go to his first major assignment, that of hosting an ever-dangerous Ireland team on our shores. Coetzee spoke to Valen Kirtley on SABC this morning on the mammoth task he's faced with.
I know the country will be behind the Springbok team. We just have to make sure that we're well prepared for the Irish and get off to a good start.
You mentioned that key word, well prepared. You don't have much time with the team.
That's what I said to the journalist yesterday as well. The fact of the matter is, I need to select 23 of our best possible players at that stage. I need to select a fit 23, game fit, and see how well they've played throughout Super 15, informed players with the mindset of wanting to do well for the national team.
You mentioned selection, and that's something that was number one of the big reasons that Saru highlighted as to why they selected you as the new head coach for the Springboks. Your track record when it comes to transformation is untouched here in South Africa, and you have got obviously the targets that have been set for the 2019 Rugby World Cup, where Saru and government hope to see 50% of the team being made up of players of colour. So is this something that in every team you're going to be endeavouring to do, 50% players of colour?
Valen, it's exciting times. One has got to be aware that we're living in a country with unique challenges, and I'm excited about that challenge as well. When I look at players, I'll make sure that I select the right players at the time to perform. And it happened to be at Stormers and Western Province that I backed the right players, irrespective of skin colour. And I think the transformation process not just, starts with players of colour, but also the way we think and the opportunities that we need to give players. And if you back them, and it starts with the individual self within your heart. If you believe in it, then it surely will work in the right way. I think players of colour want to know why they are selected, like any other normal rugby player. So you pick me, coach, because I've got the X factor, I've got the ability to contribute to your team, then I'll do it for you. But never select me on the colour of my skin. And that is what I will make sure. When the team runs out against Ireland, it will be the best possible 23 players that will die for each other on that field.
This also speaks a little bit to perhaps a mandate that one would sign when actually being employed. I know that at the announcement this week, Yuri Roo actually said that your performance will be assessed on a yearly basis. But what are some of the targets that need to be met? Are there any targets, mandates for performance?
I think for every national coach, there will be KPIs. And at test level, you will be measured on results first and foremost. I think, obviously, like we said, transformation is important. And then you've got to, make sure that the image of Springbok rugby is really, maintained and even enhanced. And I think when I speak about those three things, that is what SA Rugby will be looking at me to add value in my tenure as Springbok coach.
Are there certain markers leading up to the Rugby World Cup, seeing that we are speaking about transformation and perhaps targets that are known publicly of 50%? Because some people say that it's just not possible that that's going to happen in 2019.
Yeah, I'd like us to have a look at our IRB Under-20 World Cup this year and see the amount of young talent coming through across the spectrum. So that is how I have to look at it. Who are those players will be ready for come 2019, and I'm sure we will have added to what the existing group of players. If you look at a Jesse Creel, he came from the Under-20 World Cup 2 years ago, and he's a Springbok today. And I will be giving similar opportunities to those players who are definitely good enough to play at that level. Make sure that they get enough experience for 2019. That was a key in 2004 when I assisted Jake White, is our selection policy. How many caps you would like to see players have when we play in in 2007 World Cup, and we build that. We gave them the opportunity. We set them up to be successful, and those players gained the confidence. And there's nothing better than having a confident player in your team. Doesn't matter who he is, and he will then perform for his country. And that's the same philosophy that I'll try and apply.
You've still got to actually select that very first team for the Test series, or when it comes to Ireland, starting with that first one in Newlands. And the big question mark is who's going to be the captain of the team. I know you said you're only going to announce it later. Yeah. What are you looking for, though?
I'm looking for a captain that can help this country to win Test matches, first and foremost. I'm looking for a captain who will be having the same agenda, motivation to make sure that South Africa is priority. I'm looking for a captain that will be respected by his peers. I'm looking for a captain that will be in form. And I'm looking for a captain that will be medical fit to make sure he can contribute in the field of play.
And of course, the family of this newly appointed Springbok coach, Alistair Coetzee, says it hopes he'll afford all players equal opportunities to play for the national team, irrespective of race. The Coetzee family in Grahamstown in the Eastern Cape has celebrated his appointment.
There were equal celebrations for Coetzee's assistant Zwandile Stick in New Brighton Township in Port Elizabeth. His coaching credentials have been questioned by many, but he insists that he has been involved in the game for more than 20 years. Stick led the EP Kings under-19 team that won the Currie Cup Premier Division. He also captained the SA Sevens under Paul Trieu.
All the negative talks about people, I'm not going to try and entertain. And one thing we must understand is that you can't please everyone in life. So the best thing we can do as a coaching staff now with Alistair Coetzee as our leader, we're just going to have to deliver and make sure that we bring the positive results for the nation.
The pair's first assignment with the Boks is against the Irish in June this year. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Grahamstown.
And finally, for a story that everybody's been waiting for, Kobe Bryant's final NBA game exceeded all expectations, with the retiring legend scoring 60 points. The most ever for a player in his final game, including 17 straight in the fourth quarter to lead the Los Angeles Lakers to a win over the Utah Jazz. Playing in the last game of his 20-year career, Kobe Bryant put on a show for a sold-out Staples Center crowd one final time. The retiring Lakers star poured in a season-high 60 points and steered the Lakers to a 101-96 comeback with a win over the Utah Jazz. It was the sixth 60-point game of his career. In a fitting finale, Bryant attempted 50 shots on the night, the most taken by anyone in an NBA game in the past 30 seasons. And of course, there are rumors that some tickets will be sold for over $20,000 US, Elvis, the most ever for any game in any sport ever.
My goodness, some people have got to bomb their houses for that kind of money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's a lot of money to be spent, right? But I believe that we've run out of time. Kendall? Thank you so much. From myself, Elvis Preslin.
And me, Kendall Makamad.
We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Same time, same place. This is Newsroom. Ciao for now. Arrivederci.
Legamos.